Hey, Crawl Spacers, welcome to our August Spider History podcast with the man, the myth, JR. Ooh, pouring one out for
Whoa! The screen said the host may add you at any time. Be ready, and I didn't take it seriously. So
the host is here.
the
You're
host
pouring
is
one
there.
out.
And,
Have you recovered from the last 30 days of us mourning Lance Bannon's death?
Man, I had to rush through the Facade saga in 55 minutes or something like that.
We went long. We missed the Facebook thing. It said, nope, you didn't start within 10 minutes, so I had to restart it. Anyway, it's going. Mr. Comics beat both of us. He was first. Ryan is ready. Ryan is really excited. He loves Identity Crisis. So,
boy, I tell you, Ryan, fan. I'm probably not going to do it justice because I didn't have enough time to read it.
Whatever. So. You're half-ass as some people's full effort.
Well, wait a minute. I don't half-ass any of this, regardless
of...
of...
You 3/4 ass. All right, we got B. Rich watching from Kansas City. What's up? How are you, buddy?
How are the Royals doing this year, by the way, I wonder?
I don't know. Ryan says, I actually did a report for my old costume class in college on the style used of the 4 IDs and got an A on it. Well, there you go, Ryan.
Wow.
Do we have to show proof of identity to listen to Spider History? Nope, you don't. You don't. Let's see. You will kick ass and take more Diet Mountain Dew, says Ryan. So we alluded to it. We're tackling 8 issues in this podcast. Identity Crisis from 1998, huh?
Yep, 8 issues, boys and girls, and here they all are.
All right,
because I'm going to have to go through them just like you at this time. But
no, you read them.
It's been a long time, but I would tell you, I will tell you.
Yeah.
As I flipped through some of these just to get the idea of what was going on. Now, I did not like Sensational Spider-Man. I did not like DeZago's. I think DeZago was the writer for most of it, right?
Yeah.
And the artist
start off with Dan Jurgens. Remember?
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. It did because it was it was supposed to be the Ben Reilly, or it was Dan Jurgens' book. I mean, it was created for him.
Yep.
I'm trying to think who is the artist on this one. Because,
Mr. Ringo, man.
Yeah,
Mike Ringo.
Now, Mike Ringo was a very popular artist. Very well liked by a lot of people, and unfortunately prematurely passed away. Not a fan of his art.
I liked his art. It's kind of cartoony, but so is what's his name that just did amazing with Spencer. He's on Hulk now. Fans, you can help me out. But I got to go to a panel in Chicago with Mr. Ringo. He was sitting at a table and he was talking about being on Spider-Man, and he was drawing. And he passed away way too early. But
was it cancer or like a heart attack or
I forget, but I dug it. Some people don't, but I dig that his art. So that's what we start off with. This is on Marvel Unlimited. If you want to read it with your Otley, thank you very much, Otley. I couldn't think of Otley's name.
So. But as I was able to thumb through ice. There we go. So able to thumb through some of this. I realized that how much I liked this era of Spider-Man, actually, because right before it was in the post-Clone Saga pre-reboot, and Brad and you and I have talked about it too. How like we also liked when Spider-Man was done by Bagley and Spectacular was done by DeMatteis and Tom DeFalco was on Amazing.
But just the stink of the Clone Saga was on it, and so people wouldn't pick it up. Yeah.
Well, it was just the industry itself had gone into a spiral. I mean, it had just gone into the death spiral. And unfortunately, when even bringing Spider-Man back did not save it. In fact, after the infamous Life of Riley series that I forget the gentleman who put it together. It was 30-something parts. So it's an invaluable.
Glenn Greenberg.
Well, Greenberg participated.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean he was
Yeah,
a key participant, but I mean I'm trying to remember the gentleman who created it, and he was going to do the death of Spider-Man,
I
which
remember
was
that.
going to follow the Clone Saga and like everything that was going on and how the sales just kept tanking and the decisions that led
Yeah.
to the reboot. But he never did it. You know, I mean, real life probably got in the way. But
Yeah.
but anyway, this actually was an entertaining era of Spider-Man, and of course what set it up. This particular one of the things that set this particular storyline off was the death of Joey Z.
Yeah, Hornacek got you to it. Yeah, horny. Hornacek and Joey Z.
You probably named it right. I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember that podcast number. It might have been 149 or something like
Horny
that.
Z. Good God.
Infamous death of Joey Z.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, what number was that? You're gonna have to go back to the crawl space archives.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
search for Joey Z because it was
usually it's. I think it's the same one where we talked about Miles Morales too. I don't know.
Hornacek, you are our historian. Help us out. What podcast episode are we referencing so people can go? This is before we video streamed them. This was calling JR up on the phone.
Yeah.
This was long before our video webcams.
But this was a I did kind of like this era of
I did
Spider-Man. Norman Osborn. Actually, this Norman Osborn had come back. He bought half of the Daily Bugle. Blackmailed Jonah. Was blackmailing Jonah. Had the new Jack-o'-lantern on his payroll. Now, Joey Z was no, but it was a lot more fun to talk about Joey Z than Assad. And so this mysterious, this thug known as Joey Z was found murdered and was found hanging, in a web, and Spider-Man's web had suffocated Joey, or everybody thought it was Spider-Man's web. So Spider-Man was considered a suspect. And also, of course, Spider-Man had busted into Norman Osborn's penthouse and just beat the crap out of Norman because Norman was messing with him. And so the Daily Bugle put a $5 million bounty on Spider-Man's head, which was the basis for the Spider Hunt story that preceded this one, where all the bounty hunters and everybody was coming into New York. And so Spider-Man figured out, I still want to save the day, but how do I do that if everyone's gunning for Spider-Man? And of course, this was the era of these marvelous little trifold, you would open it up, you'd have the characters, and there'd be an introduction of who was who and what the last story had been. And, but unfortunately that was considered too expensive.
Yeah.
And they did away with it. So anyway, the first part
here, before we go, hold on, because I don't know if the fans or the viewers know this. I put a link on the main page, but this is the this is the company that houses our podcast. So if iTunes usually cuts you off after 300, but if you go to spidermancrawlspace.podbean.com, there's a little search thing over here, and I want to type in Joey Z and see if it pulls up the episode number. If you want to hear JR talk about it. Oh no, did I not do it in the description?
Yeah, no, it wasn't in the description, I don't think, because at that time we didn't know that we had created a legendary episode.
It's not. So what would a search term be? So Spider Hunt, is that what it was called?
Well, it wasn't what the podcast was called.
But, I know, but no, that's not pulling up anything. Okay, well, I apologize. We're gonna have to have people go back.
It's funny. I have my list of, but of course, naturally, it isn't here in front of me.
Yeah.
By the way, I just wanted to tell everybody I found in an old back issue bin something I thought I would never find or never be able to afford. But fortunately, it was in beat up condition and it was available for a song.
What'd you get?
Marvel
14
superheroes dating back to
68.
Yeah, and I don't think the story was ever reprinted anywhere else. In fact, I don't even think. I'm trying to think of who even drew it. It was.
Is it Don Heck?
Who wrote it? It wasn't the usual Spider-Man story. Let's see here. Well, it was cunningly concocted by Smiling Stan Lee and riotous Ross Andrew. But the spine-chilling synthetic man. But it was, but it was available for like $5, and I had to, I said,
Nice.
man, I've never seen that story, never read that story. It's not even memorable, but hey, a collector, you got to have, like Pokemon, you got to get them all. So, Spider
Okay,
Hunt.
hold on.
Oh.
I found it.
Okay.
What's funny is that search on the podcast page did not pull it up, but a simple Google search for Crawl Space and Joey Z did. It is episode 169. Highlights of the episode include reviews of Amazing Spider-Man 677, 679, Daredevil number 8. JR takes us back to February 98. For this month in Spider history, he tackles the Who is Joey Z is what I should have written back in February 28th of 2012. That is a 10-year-old podcast, JR.
Yep.
Podcast.
Yep. Of course, here I was saying this story is the story. Venkman, it's been reprinted in the Epic collections in one of the omnibuses. And then Gary in the Frozen, I have that issue. Well, here I thought I found something special I thought I would never get. And you guys are just trying to throw cold water on my joy.
You, JR, you do that for all these stories we review, so it's fair.
Here I was thinking I had just something. Okay, Green Goblin 5 was to be Phil Urich, but they didn't want to anger his fans. Yeah. All right. Holy cow. Anyway.
If we're going through chat, here, Brent has one before we really get into it. Did you buy all the covers of those issues of Slingers 1? If I had to guess, JR is not going to do it.
Well, actually, I got some. Like, for example, here is the Sensational Hornet. I think they all came with like two.
No. Slingers number 1. That's what spun off of this. The ongoing with all the 4
hell
guys.
No.
See, that's why. There's no way JR's buying.
Hell no.
But
that's because it was Slingers, a bankruptly creative decision.
Slingers number 1 did something that I've not seen done since 1998 or whenever that book came out, 99 or 2000. It had variant interiors. So there were different parts of the story. So you had to buy different parts of it to get the whole story, which I thought was kind of smart, but they've never done it since. But yeah, I'm not sure even I bought those, but I'd have to look in my long boxes.
Boy, I tell you, what? I should just stop doing spider history because you guys have all the answers. I don't,
All right, JR said it. He's done. We're just going to take him off. You and me, we're going to do 8 issues. You, me, and the chat. All right, let's go. I can't do it alone, JR. Go ahead.
Ryan Reed says, Ralph Macchio's reason for Joey Z. I just enjoy Spider-Man gated by the police. Let's see here.
Ryan has the autograph. Joe Harris wrote Slingers. I forgot about that. Mr. Comics comes to Spider history because he wants to see a real-life Vulture.
Oh, you're so funny. You're so funny.
Did he make the list?
No, he didn't make the list because that's not even an original joke. That started with
Michael Bailey.
Michael Bailey always thought it was because at that time we weren't doing video, and so Walter or Michael Bailey always thought that I really looked like Walter.
Yeah.
From the
all right. Let's get on
with
it, man. Let's get on with it. We got 8 issues.
All right. Yeah. Well, we'll get through these because I did, like I said, I wasn't prepared. But anyway, all right. So the story starts out with Norton G. Fester, which
Sensational Spider-Man 27. Is part
which
1.
everybody knows affectionately as
the
Looter.
The Looter.
Another old Steve Ditko creation.
Not very popular Steve Ditko creation.
A what?
The Looter isn't in the same league as Norman Osborn.
No, all the villains in green. I'm trying to figure out when the Looter first appeared. It was like 36 or something like that.
Or something, yeah.
And then I don't think he appeared at all until I think they brought him back. I think Jerry Conway brought him back for a couple of issues of Marvel Team Up.
Maybe Team Up, but I thought I remember him being in like Spec 40-ish.
He might. I don't know,
something like that.
But he might have. Actually, yes, he was. He was, and he did come back. He became Giant or something like that. But I don't. I think Conway brought him back in the 70s in the Team Up, and he hadn't been seen since. Well, because it came at the end of the Ditko run. So, Ditko didn't do anything more with him than that one appearance.
Right.
And, obviously Romita apparently wasn't interested. Wasn't interested in doing anything. But it's always good to have it's always good to have a C grade villain for Spider-Man to beat up every
no
once in
doubt.
a while. But anyway, so the looter's trying to loot, but the problem is he's kind of weirdly he's talking to his meteor, because as we all know, the meteor gas gave the meteor man his superpowers or whatever. But now he's talking. He's talking to the meteor and he's kissing to the meteor, which is just kind of gross. But anyway, but he's interrupted in his looting by the newest superhero in town, the Hornet.
Yeah.
All right. So what is the Hornets? What is the origin of the Hornet? Well, obviously, as we said before, Spider-Man is on the lam for the murder of Joey Z and for beating up Norman and just being a general public menace. So he figures, Spider-Man says, I'm a hero and a hero has to do some heroing, but I can't do any heroing as Spider-Man. So I need to hero as somebody else. So he decides to visit his old buddy, Hopey Brown, also known in another universe as Spider-Punk.
I thought another universe. Yeah.
Yeah. Another universe.
Yeah. Not the Prowler.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Or Miles Morales' uncle.
Right. So he's Spider-Punk in another universe, but in here he's just plain old Hopey Brown, who used to be the Prowler. Thank you. So Hopey, so Spider-Man says, Hopey, you got anything for me? I know you're a techno whiz. Oh, and Hopey says, oh, I don't know. I got this and I got this and I got this jetpack, which is great, but it's just way too heavy for the ordinary person to, oh, wait a minute. Here I am saying it's too heavy, and you're a guy who can bench press the Hulk. So anyway, so Hopey helps him with the mechanics of this costume. We go back to the present, and the Hornet is taking on the looter, and then we're in the Daily Bugle offices because Flash Thompson is working there. Because as you remember, boys and girls,
I don't. When was Flash working there?
Well, because Norman Osborn just had a feeling for the boy. Norman said, Flash, you picked yourself up off of, being an alcoholic, coming back from military service, and dealing with the repercussions of that. And plus you were a friend to my son, Harry. And I just want to, Hopey is Spider-Punk. Yeah. So, and I just want to give you a little something back. So why don't I give you a job as my personal assistant? And of course, Flash thinks Norman Osborn is, the greatest thing since sliced Wonder Bread. But this is, of course, before Norman gets him drunk later.
Gets him drunk with Paul Jenkins. Paul Jenkins didn't get him drunk.
Paul Jenkins has Norman get Flash drunk and drive him right into Peter's school in Death of the Family. So, but anyway, so. Well, the Hornet and the looter come to the Hornet and the looter meet, and then we have more flashbacks. We flash back to Mary Jane. Helps apparently. So Peter got the mechanics from Hopey, but he got the design from Mary Jane. So Mary Jane helped him design
she knows clothing.
The Hornet costume, and of course you see the little, I wonder if his theme song is like that buzzing that from the Green Hornet show. You remember? So
no,
of course you don't.
I never watched the Green Hornet. No, I watched Batman.
Well, there's YouTube.
Well, I'm good.
All right. So, anyway, let's see here. Anyway, so he does take Mary Jane for a little ride in the Hornet costume, but something gives out, and he says, "Quick, MJ, pull my finger."
Well, he doesn't.
Yes, he does. Oh my God, Peter, we're falling. Keep going. I think some feathers got tucked in.
Pull my finger. He does say it. I'll be damned. What? He's going to float with a fart? What?
No, it pulls the glove off, and he can use his web shooters.
I see. Got you. Pull my finger. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, but and then we go back to we go to Billy Walters. And boys and girls, you remember Billy Walters. Billy
We all
Walters was this schmuck of a Daily Bugle wannabe reporter that, idolized Peter and wanted to, learn the secrets of the trade. Yeah, Milo, it's thanks for being with us all this time. I think it's 3 or 4 a.m. over in your, in your neck of the woods. So, enjoy the fish and chips and have a good night. So, Brad.
He makes stuff up, Hornacek. He makes stuff up.
So Billy Walters, wants to be Peter's pal, but Peter just keeps blowing him off time and time again because Peter is always doing, Spider-Man stuff. Anyway, so Billy, once again, having been stood up by Peter, Billy's gone home, but he looks up in the sky and sees one of our great old villains, the Vulture. Vulture.
Old Vulture.
All right. So anyway, so now we're back in the present again with the Hornet, the Hornet confronting the looter who is going to shoot Flash, and the Hornet distracts the looter and is able to knock get Flash away from him. Flash takes the looter's gun, and ultimately, Flash takes the looter's gun, which has the meteor, which Fester calls Snooky. So Shield busts in, wants the meteor. The looter says, "My Snooky darling, no, they can't have you." And the Hornet zaps the looter and knocks him out. So Flash introduces the Hornet to the media, and Norman Osborn comes to greet the Hornet because
he's losing his hair. Look at
Norman.
Look at that hair.
Norman doesn't look too good here. Norman and his Lex Luthor cronies. Again, this is one reason why, like I said, Wingo's art I never really liked how he did Norman in this. He didn't do him like John Romita Jr. did.
Right.
And Norman offers him a job. Man, I could use someone with your skills on my team. But then the Hornet says something fateful. He says, "Well, I'm from Charlotte," which, of course, everybody should realize is an in-joke about the Charlotte Hornets basketball team. Yeah. Are you here to go after the Spider-Man bounty? The media says he hasn't been seen for, and the Hornet says, let's just say you won't have to worry about Spider-Man from now on. Well, as we find out the next issue, that makes a certain hot-tempered, hot-headed, flaming young man a little aggravated. But that's next issue. Okay.
Here we go.
So
there he is. Vulture's ticked.
Yep.
Vulture's ticked. Yep.
So yeah, Vulture's mad because it's like, oh, wait a minute. Spider-Man was mine to kill. I've, been fighting him all these years, and then all of a sudden this young wet-nosed punk from nowhere apparently has done something with him. So the Vulture is going to get revenge on the Hornet.
Help me out with the next issue number. I've lost my tab.
It is Sensational Spider-Man number 28.
No. The next number is Amazing Spider-Man, something 430.
Well, I'm doing these. 2. Yeah, it's May 430. It's issue 434, but okay. I'm doing these in with the heroes. Like, for example, Amazing Fourth. Yeah, I know. I was looking this up and looking up the orders of identity, the storylines, and the one I looked up was going back and forth. Like, for example, Sensational was part 1 of the Hornet, then Amazing is part 1 of Ricochet. Then like Spider-Man, then Amazing.
So you're just going to review the 2 issues together? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I'm going to do
Hornet.
I'm going to do each suit together.
So that just goes to show there's not much continuity. Is that what you're saying in between them?
No, it's just, remember, this was all, they were doing this all at the same time. I mean, so like, for example, you had, Sensational was the Hornet, Amazing was Ricochet, Peter Parker Spider-Man was Dusk, and then Spectacular Spider-Man was Prodigy.
Right.
So they're all being published the same month, but each So it's like sensational. You have one issue of Hornet, one issue of Ricochet, one issue of Dusk, one issue of Prodigy. Then the next month
I
you
got you.
have the second part of each one.
Gotcha.
So rather than
it.
just do that, I
No
just
problem. It's easier. I understand.
Yeah,
all right, so let's tackle the Hornet.
All right. Well, of course, the Hornet, after making his media debut, of course, it catches the attention of all of the other superheroes in town, and the Avengers are saying, that's just another guy would keep an eye on. And of course, Janet seems to think that, now that I've opened my blackened eyes after being beaten by my husband, I can tell that his costume is similar to Hank's old Yellow Jacket outfit.
Yeah.
And of course, Norman Osborn is, sitting there, just, chilling while his grandson plays at his feet, which I always, that's just something I always always liked about,
yep.
One of the things I liked about later Norman is that, the guy's a grandfather, grandfather, there's grandson, and he's just still this dastardly supervillain.
He got some hair back.
yeah, but he still he kind of looks like he got a lobotomy. They shaved part of his head, and there's the scar where they did the lobotomy. That's exactly what that looks like.
Yeah. Ringo drew a great wash, says Ryan. Dust sadly showed that Howard Mackie was obsessed with the negative zone. There you go. And Vinkman's not a sports guy, but he got the Charlotte Hornets joke. So there you go.
There we go.
Just as sensational, liked those D-list characters, Mackie was obsessed with the negative zone. And for Fortunato, I like Spec and Amazing in this era, but not Sensational or Peter Parker. Peter Parker had the best art, I think, of all of them with John Romita Jr., in my opinion.
Jr., yeah. And I actually like Mackie's stories during this time. To each his own, I guess. But, Sensational was the only one of the four I didn't like. But I liked, because, again, I thought you had three strong, and Mackie was a strong writer, I think, on this era. And you had Tom DeFalco on Amazing and J.M. DeMatteis on Spectacular. So
check this out, this little homage. Look what the Fantastic Four are eating. Sugar-coated Ringos and whole grain Zagos. So they got the writer and the artist there in the little art. Nice.
Isn't that clever?
That's cute.
Isn't that clever? And anyway, so the thing says, "Don't you worry, Reed. If this guy gives us any trouble, we'll clobber him."
Yep.
So, well, of course, so the Vulture has got a mad on for the Hornet, thinking that he took out Spider-Man. I'm telling you, Mary Jane, there's nothing to worry about. Isn't this the very reason we invented the Hornet? Why you designed the costume? So I could do good without Osborn trying to destroy me. So, but let's see, what is Mary Jane's problem here? Well, she still doesn't like being Peter being out superheroing.
Okay.
She just wishes he would just, Norman Osborn is a shark. He's a manipulative and vindictive scuzzball. Oh man, Mary Jane, I used to like you,
No.
So anyway, well, then we get a visit from one of my favorite characters, Hopey, the little deaf girl. All right.
Her name's not Hobie, is it?
Hopey. Hope. Her
Hope.
name's Hope.
Hopey.
Sometimes
Okay.
Sometimes people call her Hopey, but her name's Hope. She's the little deaf girl.
Okay.
And it was during that whole Runkin rant or whatever I was doing as part of the Joey Z story. I said, and there's this little deaf girl, and of course, George picked up on that and said, well, yeah, that's going to be a Christmas special, the little deaf girl. But anyway, so Hopey is kind of a voyeur. She's deaf and she's a voyeur. She looks out the window a lot. And so she's seen Spider-Man come into Peter Parker's window on more than one occasion. So
I forgot about that.
Yeah. So she's signing. She and Anna Watson were signing, and then Hopey looks at Peter and
thwips.
There we go.
She thwips. Uh-oh.
Yep.
Uh-oh.
She knows something.
My God. She knows.
Yeah. So
whatever happened to Hopey?
Well, that's another thing.
Did she go to Mayberry? What happened?
Well, as it turns out later, we find out Hopey really didn't know that Peter was Spider-Man, but he just thought Spider-Man was invading the house to hurt Peter, and then of course Peter had to say, no, we're just friends. He just came over to watch the Wiggles with me. And, so anyway, so the Hornet is flying around when guess who shows up? All right.
Torch.
Yep. And basically it's like, if you've done anything to Spider-Man, I'm going to, French fry your ass. And
how can you not like that art? That's good. I love the flames coming off the torch. That's good. That's good. Art's subjective. I know.
Well, art's subjective, and it doesn't mean that I didn't, that everything. I just didn't like the way you drew like certain characters and faces. I said, there lobotomy Norman.
True.
And then there's another look of Norman where as we get to the end of this issue. But anyway, so the Human Torch is threatening the Hornet, thinking if you've done anything with Spider-Man, I'm gonna fry you. Peter runs into Billy and says, "Well, Billy, I'm sorry for stiffing you all this time." Billy says, "Well, fine, we can still work together, but I don't want to be your friend anymore, Peter." So. Anyway, so Norman Osborn is is having a big media thing for the Hornet because, he's going to, he wants to use the Hornet to go after Spider-Man. And that's one reason Mary Jane was upset because, Norman's going to find out that you've been playing him and he's going to be really mad at you. And it's kind of like, well, Mary Jane, you can't be madder at me than he already is. So Norman's having this big media thing for the Hornet, and says, that I'm sure you'll agree the Hornet has his work cut out for him because of that cancer of crime that has spread across our city, vile acts of violence and terrorism perpetuated by a moral deviant such as that miscreant Spider-Man. And he looks straight at Peter Parker. Man, I think I'd lose my lunch if I had to listen to Osborn talk anymore. So Peter decides to slip out and become the Hornet. Osborn has given him a big check, and Peter says that I would like this money donated to the Lothridge School for the Deaf, which is a real school, by the way, I believe. So, but then the Vulture comes in, and the Vulture wants his piece of flesh from the Hornet because, like I said, he thinks the Hornet's done away with Spider-Man. And during the fight, Peter just can't help himself. He slips into some of his old dialogue, and he calls the Vulture Vulchie. And that gets the Vulture thinking, Vulchie? And then with all the jokes and the prattling, he realizes who the Hornet really is. So he goes, I know you! The Hornet is Spider-Man! And Norman Osborn looks over and sees that Peter Parker is no longer standing there.
Oh, hold on. Let's get the Norman looks up here. Wait a minute. Where's Peter Parker? Oh. Ooh. Okay.
And then the next
oh, my. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, that's...
It's like it's like the road department came by. and did double lines on it.
I mean, he's supposed to be evil looking and everything, but that just isn't.
He doesn't have that bad a receding hairline or bald up there, yeah.
But he just
But it's face. A cool scene nonetheless.
Well, but so anyway, Peter says, well, the Vulture gave it away. He's back home with Mary Jane. The Vulture gave it away. Osborn knows, so I guess I'll just put this costume away until someone else takes it for that stupid ass Slingers spinoff series, which I can't. Anybody should have realized what a Craven commercial knockoff it was. Yeah. But anyway,
don't forget Hopey.
But then Peter looks out the window and sees Hopey.
What's up, Hopey?
It's like, uh-oh. I don't know if this is good news or not. So, but boys and girls, that is the end of the first part of Identity Crisis, the Hornet.
Yep. All right, you want to move on to Amazing now, I think.
Yes, we want to go on to Amazing, which is the fabulous Ricochet.
Ricochet.
And I think
434.
I think Ricochet is distinguished partly by the fact that his costume is bulletproof, I believe. So,
Yeah. So it's like Teflon. All right.
so anyway,
We got DeFalco writing it and Joe
yep,
Bennett.
because this is amazing. This is DeFalco, so we're going to get into all DeFalco subplots and the the recurring villains were like Black Tarantula, the Rose, who in this case the Rose was Bugle reporter Jacob Conover. So let's see here. How many Bugle reporters have been super villains? Frederick Foswell was the big man. You know, Ned Leeds supposedly was the Hobgoblin for a while. Conover was
Katzenberg, who tried to reveal
Katzenberg wasn't a super villain. He was just a pain in the ass. So
yeah.
And he smoked more cigarettes. Unlike George Barrowman, he didn't give up smoking.
He did not. No.
You know. So anyway, so the Ricochet is in town now. Okay,
and
Ricochet. He's busting up some lowlifes. You know, and he says there's an ancient Chinese curse. May you live in interesting times, which I actually hear didn't originate in China, but I heard it originate in Britain. So it's a shame that Milo is no longer with us to verify whether or not. That was accurate or not. So anyway, so Spider-Man is taking out some, or not Spider-Man, God,
Ricochet, man, don't get it.
Ricochet is taking out some thugs here. All right. Yeah. And he's flashing back because in Spider Hunt, the Black Tarantula was pretty well beat him to within an inch of his life and ripped off his mask.
By the way, Chat is talking about the Beanie Babies jokes that are being said in this fight.
Yes.
But they're beanie
the bear babies that all the kids want.
Bears, not Beanie Babies. Yeah.
But let's see here.
Oh,
what's the haul? Video. He's finding out what they're stealing. What's the haul? Video equipment, computers, furs, stuffed animals. Oh no, it's the bear babies.
Bear babies.
Which, if you remember, boys and girls, I don't know if you remember the Beanie Baby craze.
Yep.
I
Go to any antique shop. You can still
remember the Beanie Baby craze because we had to get Beanie Babies because my daughter was like 4 years old at the time.
You know what they say the modern day Beanie Babies are? These things, these Funko Pops. I kind of believe it too. They're everywhere.
It's the closest thing, but the thing is that the Beanie Babies had such famous chase babies. That was just the ones that everybody had to have, and they drove up. And then like a few years later, they were worthless, utterly and completely worthless. So, talking about running a thing into the ground. But I remember we had quite a few Beanie Babies, and then we couldn't give them
away, man.
So anyway, so they're trying to steal the Beanie Babies,
Beanie Bears,
in the Marvel babies, whatever.
In the damn Marvel universe, it's bears.
They're Beanie Babies.
Yeah.
So, oh Lord. Boys and girls, I am just not with it today. Well, Mary Jane goes to visit Peter Parker, and Norman Osborn, all right, shows up again, and he's, okay, so this was taking he's showing off the Hornet, the Hornet right now.
Yeah.
Do I detect a note of hostility, my boy? Do you take issue with the Hornet statement that not having to worry about Spider-Man anymore? And of course, at this time, like I said, Peter is all these heroes at the same time. Yeah. And that's the thing that's happening. He's all these heroes.
My God, if he had a fifth or a sixth title, they'd make two more.
They probably would have made two more. So anyway, but see, there's another subplot going on here. Okay. Because Robbie Robertson was quote unquote fired from the Daily Bugle. Okay. And it turns out that, so now they're in Europe. Okay. Well, as we find out, like turn the next page, that Robbie is actually working for somebody mysteriously. He's really not off the payroll yet. And we find out that on the next page, he's talking to somebody on the phone. I've been waiting for your call, Robertson. I've confirmed that yacht is owned by Osborn. Have you found it yet? So Robbie is and really, I mean, I guess there's no spoilers or whatever. Jonah has done it. The firing of Robbie was all
Yeah.
a ruse. So Robbie's over in Europe investigating some, and Billy Walters has actually been looking up for stuff on
And
Osborne as well.
and this leads to what could have been the baby, the Mary Jane Spider-Man or Peter Parker baby,
And we
which
are
was
led.
Mayday.
We are, we find Allison Mongrain
Yeah,
and her packet, the package that she has,
which
and
is a crib, right?
yeah, and we are led to believe that this is Baby May.
Yep.
And ultimately, it turns out not to be. It turns out to be Aunt May, because remember, Aunt May has died theoretically in issue number 400. So,
yeah, and never touched upon. I don't think again the baby, except for an alternate universe of MC2. So
let's see here. Well, it was. Boy, I'm trying to think if she. The only time it was, the last time I think it was mentioned is when Osborn was taunting Peter in Death in the Family.
Oh, the Jenkins one?
Yeah, in the Jenkins one.
Okay.
And he tells Spider-Man, you failed everybody in your life, your Uncle Ben, Gwen, your unborn child.
Oh, that's cold. Yeah. Okay. There you go. So Peter and Mary Jane go thrifting.
Yep, they go thrifting
in disguise.
Yep. Yeah, because after all, hot redhead. I mean, no one will notice Mary Jane, at all. I mean, it's like, nobody's going to watch that hot redhead.
Wait a minute. What did they pick up? What did they? I think we're playing dress up. Now that you mention it, you do bear vague resemblance to a doll I used to play with. No. So they go to the store, and it just randomly has an R on it.
Yep, why not?
Okay.
R?
Okay, there you go.
That whole leather jacket craze died out years ago.
Yeah. Oh, that jacket's from the rodeo bar that folded a few years ago. Okay, so that's where the Ricochet R came from on the jacket. So it's from a rodeo. Ooh, I forgot about that. All right.
Well, anyway, so of course, Ricochet is looking to take down the Black Tarantula's operations, and turns and runs into one of Black Tarantula's and the Rose's top henchmen, henchwomen, assassins, or whatever, Delilah. And of course,
Delilah. Little Tom Jones.
And then, of course, after this brief fight with Delilah, we shift into subplot mode again, boys and girls, because now we see the Scryers and Allison Mongrain.
Oh God, who are the Scryers? Help me out.
Don't you remember the Scryers?
I blocked these guys out.
All right. First of all,
who are the Scryers?
The Scryers.
They're packing some money.
Well, apparently the Scryers may even go back all the way to Man-Thing and being the nexus of all realities crap that I never understood. God. But in the Clone Saga, the Scryer or whatever, started showing up. He was a mysterious being who, again, like many other beings in the Clone Saga, said a lot of mysterious things.
Did Judas Traveler hang out with this guy?
Judas Traveler hung out with him, and the Scryer had the ability to take away Spider-Side's degenerating factor. Remember, because all clones have degenerate. Well, Scryer touched Spider-Side and took away his degenerating factor. So something seemed to be really special about Scryer.
And that's why he could appear in the most recent JMD Mateus miniseries, which is out now. Go pick that up. Yeah. So there you go.
So, but then when the Clone Saga, after Ben got bumped and Peter came back, and Delilah comes back, yes, and Spider Girl. But after the Clone Saga was over, Norman Osborn had come back. Then it was in Glenn Greenberg's Osborn Chronicle, where he tries to tie everything together and does about as good a job as anybody could do. It turns out that, quote unquote, the Scryers are a criminal organization in Europe, and Norman takes them over. and takes over the scryer organization. And so he uses technology, Mendelstrom's technology, and because he's brought Mendelstrom back to make the scryer appear as a supernatural being. But really, it's just a crime cult that works for Norman Osborn, the Secret Order of Scryers. But they kind of go out of the Spider-Man titles after Revenge of the Green Goblin, because he changed. Before Revenge of the Green Goblin, it was after, just before the reboot. What was the final chapter?
Gathering. Oh, I thought you were
Gathering of Five. Yeah, Gathering of Five and final chapter. Yeah. And then the quote unquote scryers come and get him, but then the scryers split off from Norman, and whoever remains becomes the Goblin cult.
Oh.
So anyway.
What a mess. I'm amazed you remember that, and I read it. The scryers really don't give a crap about money. They just gave Allison a bunch of money and then blew the hell up of her boat.
Yep. Well, because they need the package, okay?
Which is allegedly the baby, but it's not.
Norman Osborn entrusted you with something of value. Circumstances now dictate you release it to us. Yeah. Well, I've grown rather attached to it. Now, see, this can't be Aunt May. I mean, it's just, there is, when you read this, I don't know if somebody really thought about bringing the baby back or if they just were playing a cruel joke. Probably the latter, because there's absolutely none of the clues lead this to be an Aunt May. No. None of the clues lead this to be an Aunt
May. Here, is this image a scryer? Who is that?
Actually, that is
who is that?
That is going to turn out to be Cain.
Oh, is he watching again? By God,
Cain is watching. Cain is watching again.
Oh, that's Cain. All right.
But see, actually, but
that doesn't look like Cain. Where's the hair? Where's the hair?
Now, Brad, what? You were just saying you said last month when we saw a facade at Lance Bannon's grave. Yeah. Oh, look at the back of his hair. It's dark and it's not curly. It couldn't be Cole Cooper, and I suggested
how is that Cain? It looks like the Juggernaut.
You'll find out.
It looks like the Juggernaut.
But anyway, the scryers give Allison Mongrain her quote unquote final payment, and it really does turn out to be her final payment.
Yeah, we never see her again, do we?
Because no, she comes back right before it ends. She comes back because then she dies, because Joe Robertson does find her, and
that's right. Okay,
she comes back and she has a message for Peter that May is alive, and that goes. So anyway, getting back to the fisticuffs between Spider-Man and Delilah,
Ricochet.
Okay, Ricochet and Delilah. All right. And then we have the Rose, and and while they're fighting, we're seeing the Rose and Don Fortunato, and the Black Tarantula.
Yeah.
And of course, boys and girls, if you remember, Fortunato, who actually is behind the Rose, he's the guy who set up Conover as the Rose. He turns out to be the one to buy Eddie Brock's the Venom symbiote for his son.
Yeah.
Which doesn't, in Marvel Knights Spider-Man, which doesn't go very well.
What? Hold on. What in the world does the black tarantula do to this poor person? What is going on here? Is that Delilah?
He's not doing anything to her.
He's giving her a wedgie. He's pulling her by the thong. What is this?
She was fighting the Black Tarantula.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess he did give her a wedgie. That
Good Lord, Black Tarantula fights dirty, man. Look at this.
But for reasons which still, and the thing is, Delilah always speaks in different fonts. And I never really understood.
Yeah,
but every time Delilah appears, some of her words are in different fonts.
It is. Newborns highlighted, died as. Oh, well, there's. What are they trying to do? They're trying to.
I do not know what is going on there. Well, he's ramming her head in the wall.
He's ramming her underwear up her butt too. Yeah. Wow. For our audio listeners, you got to go to YouTube and see this panel. What in the world? Oh, Brent goes, it was a different time. Oh, isn't it funny to go back to these these comics from 2022?
So,
Oh my gosh. No
so
wonder she's pissed. Can't
well,
possibly imagine how degraded I felt. You poor woman. Oh,
yeah,
all right.
and here's another subplot that's going on because
Yeah.
there's a
What's
there's
happening?
another subplot. Mary Jane actually is friends now with, I believe, the mother of Black Tarantula's son. I don't know if it's his ex-wife or whatever,
Okay. This
but
girl on the right here with the dark hair.
yes, that
Okay.
is the mother
Excellent.
of Black Tarantula's son, and they are
Mother of Black
being
Trans- Okay.
watched by Black Tarantula's crony Chesbro. Okay,
What's up,
Chesbro.
Ches bro?
Yeah.
What's up, Ches bro?
But what's funny is all of these characters, like who was our helpful friend there a little while ago that said that they come back in Spider Girl.
I forget.
Yeah,
I think it was Ryan said that maybe.
yeah. But so this child of the Black Tarantula grows up and becomes a Black Tarantula of Spider Girl. So
Yeah.
so the son that is part of this subplot grows up, becomes a Black Tarantula, and Chesbro comes back, Delilah comes back, Elektra is working for the Black Tarantula and comes back, and the Black Tarantula of that falls in love with Spider Girl,
Yeah.
which
I remember that.
Spider Girl was a very interesting series from beginning to end. Tom
Mhm.
DeFalco did a marvelous job.
Pat Olaf, Ron Friends. Yep.
Yep, they did a marvelous job bringing back some old stories, old characters, and old themes, but yet not retreading everything.
Right.
You know,
Yep.
so they did a pretty good job. But well, anyway, after the scryers blew up Allison Mongrain, that of course catches the attention of, well, anybody who happens to be watching, including Joe Robertson.
Oh, well, I thought you were talking about this guy.
Well, he was watching too, but
Yeah.
Joe's watching, and the lifeguard saves her.
Cain's watching. This guy's watching. Joe
Yeah,
Robertson.
everybody
The readers
is
are watching. We're all watching.
Now, anyway, Delilah is actually trying to solicit Ricochet, and so she says, "Are you in or out?" I'm in. So he figures this is a way to get in to and destroy the Black Tarantula.
Okay.
All right. Well, last page here. We find out, of course, Chesbro brings back. Now, Chesbro is just so creepy looking, I mean, just this guy, he reminds me of how he reminds me. Well, actually, he reminds me of like the Gremlin. Remember, was it the Gremlin, the Hulk's very first villain?
Not, yeah, maybe.
The Gargoyle. The Gargoyle.
The Gargoyle. Yeah.
That's what he was called, the Gargoyle.
Yeah. He could pass for the Mole Man, too.
Yeah, so, because we don't quite know what the Black Tarantula is looking for, or why, but he's looking at this picture of Mary Jane, but it's because he's after the woman on the left there.
Yeah.
But so the others may prove useful. But contrary to the belief shared by Fortunato and the Rose, profit did not lure me to this city, but vengeance. So
vengeance.
Yeah. So
all right. So
all right, part
done.
1 of Ricochet.
On to Ricochet. We got 435 now of ASM.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and Gargoyle was voiced by Mark Hamill in the Hulk cartoon, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Also, Mark Hamill did, well, obviously Joker, but also Hobgoblin.
Yep. And of course, he does a pretty good Harrison Ford when you see him when you see him interviewed on shows.
I can't pronounce your name, but Brad, I have a Spider-Man face cup. Well, there you go. I have a lot of Spider-Man cups too. Ricochet 435. DeFalco Bennett are back. Take me through this one, JR.
Well, let's see here. First off, it looks like we got a couple of criminals. One is apparently Andy Warhol. With
what are those guys' names?
Bloodscream and Roughhouse.
I haven't seen those since the McFarlane-McElhinney issues, right? If I remember correctly.
Personally, it's like if you're going to have a couple of dumb names or if you're going to have a dumb name like Roughhouse, you might as well bring Razorback back. Bring him and the Big Pig Rig back.
Big Pig Rig.
Yep. Remember? Well, of course, here, in this story, Oh, wait a minute. Is this okay? Yeah, Ricochet. But see, Spider-Man has started out as Dusk. Okay.
Yeah,
So
here's a picture of Dusk, which is like an all
yeah,
black suit with some web wings.
yeah.
Yeah.
So remember these again. He's all these characters at the same time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Oh,
and,
our poster is from Korea. So
ah,
thanks for watching, man.
absolutely. We're in Korea now. We're seen in Korea.
What was the other country that we were in?
Well, the Milo came from the UK.
The UK, and we had Argentina. That was the other one.
Argentina, that's right.
Man, we got international viewers tonight, and we got Alex Savick joining us tonight. So I just got a lot of people. Yeah.
Boy, I hope they're not going to be disappointed because this is the third. It's kind of like like the last half hour of Saturday Night Live. Which is sometimes the third hour of
the final act. Oh, Hornet 6 says, don't forget that John Byrne's She-Hulk had Razorback become a mutant who could drive anything, and he sent his ass into space.
Oh. Now see, that's stupid. Razorback, Razorback was a redneck who drove. I mean, it was the CB trucker craze.
He's a redneck space cowboy now.
Yeah. But the whole idea was just he was a guy, it was during the 70s when Razorback appeared. I think in like Spectacular number 12, I think is when he first appeared.
Yep.
Because he was looking for his little sister Bobby Sue, who was who had fell into a religious cult. Does that sound familiar, boys and girls?
Oh no.
But that one was run by the hate
hate monger.
The hate monger, who was actually it started with Shashan and her husband.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Silk sneaks back in.
All right. So anyway, Peter is Dusk, and he slips back in, and Mary Jane is kind of aggravated with him because, he's and actually you can see the closet where the Hornet and the Prodigy costume are hanging as well, and so she's aggravated with him because it's like you were Spider-Man for years and you knew
Pick one.
So it's like, here you're just playing. I mean, it's like you're playing here superhero. You haven't figured out how all these costumes work. You haven't figured out your fighting styles, and yet you're still going up against dangerous people like the Black Tarantula and everything. And so he says, well, doing my best, MJ, and I think I'll be Ricochet for a while. Needless to say,
he gets confused.
It's starting to get to him. All right. Well, then we go to the Rose and Delilah is working out. Nowadays, Delilah would probably be played by Gina Carano, I guess, if she hadn't fell far out of favor at Lucasfilm or whatever. But that's kind of immediately who I'm thinking of is Gina Carano when I see I see Delilah. So, but anyway,
especially with this image, that definitely looks like her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, I definitely could see her playing him.
I wonder how old Gina Carano was in 1998. She's got to be like 25 or 30. Anyway, go ahead.
Anyway, so we go back to the Black Tarantula and Fortunato, and as we learned during Spider Hunt, the Black Tarantula had beaten up Spider-Man and took his mask. So the mask is sitting in a place of honor. But then we go into the Black Tarantula's origin, which strangely enough, I always thought the Black Tarantula was South American, but he's oh, wait a minute. Oh, I see here. They're going through Black Tarantula's origin, but Fortunato is saying that he knows it. So he's kind of telling the Black Tarantula that he knows who he is. But anyway, that's not the important part of the story, because next page, Brad, we follow up on our pals.
On who?
Our pals.
Oh, our pals. Yeah, we got the scryers.
The scryers.
Yeah, here they are.
All right.
We planted a bomb on your yacht.
Yeah, we have done well. Our glorious master will be pleased. We, the Brotherhood of Scryer, now possess the delicate treasure which he once entrusted into the care of Allison Mongrain. Aunt May, right?
I guess so. Right. That's a treasure.
And then...
Is this Dusk?
No.
Who is this guy?
Cain!
Get the hell out of here. That's not Cain.
That's Cain.
Bull.
Cain's been watching. You'll find out. You'll find out that I'm right because
you always are, right?
That's right. But anyway, so the scryers are under attack
by Cain. That's Cain.
Yep. Gosh,
the master, I haven't read this in a long time.
The master will. They blew up Allison Mongrain because she was a loose end, and the master doesn't like loose ends. So this mysterious figure, who's Cain, says, "What a coincidence! I'm something of a loose end myself." Yep, gross. From the Clone Saga.
Okay.
All righty.
Then we got the creepy dude talking to Black Tarantula.
Yeah. We got Chesbro and the Black Tarantula. Boys and girls, I really haven't fought. Again, this was a running subplot with Tom DeFalco with this group. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of speed it along because it's just fighting and exposition. Yeah. Ricochet breaks in. Oh, and there's Dusk too. All right.
Wait a minute. How is Dusk and Ricochet in the same location?
I don't know.
Because you're the spider historian,
yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know. So anyway, probably Peter. Oh, wait a minute. I know what. He's switching costumes during this whole thing.
Oh,
and he's pretending. He's switching costumes,
okay.
And he's pretending, like multiple heroes are there.
Okay, gotcha.
So anyway, the Hornet then comes in and takes out Roughhouse and Andy Warhol. And then here we go, Brad. Here's the answers to your questions. Next to last page.
Okay, give me a second.
All right.
Next to last page. Oh, I remember those two guys. Those guys were in Wolverine. They fought. Yeah, I remember those two guys. Okay, the question. Are you talking about the Allison Moore?
Yes.
Okay.
Allison Mongrain has been taken to the hospital after getting blown up in a yacht. So Joe goes to the front desk to find her, but the patient has already checked out, but new patients are coming in.
Okay. Right. Look at that mark of Cain.
Those injured men, they fit the description of scryers. I wonder if they're somehow responsible for what happened to Mongrain. My God, I recognize the scars on their faces. That mark, it's the mark of Cain.
Oh, my little crawl space thing's covering it. Hold on. There you go. It's the mark of Cain.
And you doubted me.
Well, wouldn't have been the first, won't be the last.
And then, then the Hornet, of course, having busted into, Tarantula's hideout and, fighting Delilah and all the goons or whatever, comes across the picture of Mary Jane and the two women and is wondering exactly who the target is, is it MJ or somebody else? So, but anyway, and from what this, boys and girls, Cain took the package from the scryers, allegedly.
Mm-hmm.
This is never revisited again in regular continuity, because what happens then is the scryers come back during Gathering of Five and final chapter, and it's Aunt May. But then in Spider-Girl, we find out that this was indeed Cain. This was indeed Baby May. And Cain then, after stealing her from the scryers, Cain takes her to Peter and Mary Jane. Spider-Man confronts Norman Osborn about this. And that's when they get in one final confrontation when Osborn dies and Peter gets his leg blown off, which leads him to his retirement. So DeFalco, again, I don't know who was thinking what during this, I don't know if DeFalco, because this was amazing. So if DeFalco was really thinking about bringing Baby May back and he was the only one, or he was just, jerking everybody around. But essentially, though, he took this and he used it as the basis for Spider-Girl.
Yeah, exactly. Because there was just one slight diversion that the baby lived. That was the what if.
Yep. What if issue number.
Chat is talking about how Black Tarantula was used in Ed Brubaker's Captain America. Ed Brubaker's Gangbanger and Daredevil. So
yeah. No, the Black Tarantula was an interesting character. I mean, like I said, a lot of these subplots were very interesting. A lot of these characters were very interesting. That's why
Yep.
it's a shame that it all got shit canned. And of course, it's Bob Harris's fault.
Yep.
You know, really, it's all Bob Harris's fault.
Yep.
You know, it's funny. I mean, he's the guy who finally pulled the trigger on bringing Peter back. He's the guy who demanded that the mastermind be Norman Osborn instead of Harry.
Yeah.
But for the most part, all of his other decisions were just trash.
We are halfway done. We've got Peter Parker Spider-Man 91. We're tackling now with the Howard Mackey.
And this is Dusk.
This is Dusk. Yep.
This is Dusk, and in this story has one of everyone's favorite Marvel villains, Paste Pot Pete.
Yeah,
that also known as the Trapster, but also known as Paste Pot Pete. So,
yep.
Anyway, so this one has Spider-Man slipping into. Oh, yeah, this is where he's. You know, having some fun with Mary Jane and puts on all 4 costumes.
This is cute. Yeah. She cracks up. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now let's see here. Who was the artist on this?
John Romita Jr. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. This is Spider-Man.
The current Spider-Man, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Now see, I like his Mary Jane.
Oh, I do too.
I mean, I really like his Mary Jane.
Yeah.
I
love his everything. I love John Romita Jr.
But it's like again, it's just you sit, we watch these we read these old comics, for example, and part of the fun actually of Identity Crisis is Mary Jane's role in this.
Yes.
Because Mary Jane is helping him pick out the costumes, helping him design the costumes, and basically she's making fun of him the whole way around.
Exactly.
It's just I just really miss this Mary Jane.
Yep.
I just really do.
I do too.
But anyway, but basically he changes back to Spider-Man because he's meeting with Arthur Stacy. Now, as you recall, boys and girls, Arthur Stacy, and Arthur Stacy was introduced way back in Amazing Spider-Man 95, 96, whatever, 97, one of those two, when it was George Stacy's older brother who lived in London, and that's where Gwen went to live.
Bad issue 90, right, of ASM?
It was in the 90s.
Yeah,
it was in the 90s.
Because I remember maybe 95 had the Big Ben on the cover.
Yeah. So, but he talked like a proper. We all miss this, MJ. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't. And and another thing, Mary Jane as a character with Peter was good for exposition, because if the reader didn't know what was going on, Peter could explain it to Mary Jane, or Peter would explain the background of a character to Mary, or he would explain his history of this character. So she was good for updating the reader without being too obvious of exposition, like Betty Brant saying, "Oh, look, it's Arthur Bryce, the European industrialist coming from old money," that kind of thing, which we talked about last month anyway. So he changes Arthur Stacy then, so he was in Britain, he was the older brother, but then at the very end of the Clone Saga, Howard Mackey brings him back, but he's obviously much younger, doesn't talk with a British accent, and is actually, I believe, George's younger brother, not his older brother. But I think he was an interesting character because obviously he thought that Spider-Man had something to do with the death of Gwen or whatever. He brought over stupid ass. He had 2 kids, Jill and stupid ass Paul, so they figured in for a while. And Arthur was suspicious of Spider-Man, but he also didn't believe Spider-Man was a bad person. He just, but it just he just trying to figure out where he fit in all this. I like Jill too. I mean, I think she served I think Jill served a purpose of being Mary Jane's friend, because for Mary Jane, for Mary Jane to work as a character, she needs her own she needs her own group. She needs
I agree.
her friends, people she talks to. You know, one reason I think if people thought she was a boring character is because her entire life wrapped around Peter, and all writers knew what to do with her was have her worry about what Peter was doing. But if you give her friends, if you give her a place to go, if you give her things to do, like for example, for a while, after the Clone Saga, before the reboot, Mary Jane was going back to school, and she was studying, I think, criminal psychology. And so there was stuff that I think Jill was a classmate, or they went together or whatever. But so again, a lot of interesting stuff was going on here that Bob Harris just completely threw into the toilet.
So anyway, Spider-Man.
He's meeting with Arthur. He's meeting with Arthur and a detective Snipes, and Arthur has been investigating, because Arthur doesn't really, but like I said, Arthur doesn't believe Spider-Man's what the public and media have been making him out to be. And Detective Snipes comes and says, the lab boys confirm your claim, Spider-Man, because in a different issue, Spider-Man visited Captain Stacy, or Arthur shot some webbing at him and said, have your lab boys check out the composition of this webbing compared to the webbing that suffocated Joey Z. So here it is. The lab boys confirm your claim, Spider-Man. The webbing you supplied me is a different chemical composition than that used to suffocate Joey Z.
Mm-hmm.
So someone's going through an awful lot of trouble to frame you. And
who could that be?
I know it. The lab knows it, but the mayor and the DA don't care. They want your head. So, and then of course Spider-Man and Stacy come to this conclusion of the person who's probably trying to frame Spider-Man.
Osborn.
Of
course.
All right. I can only think of one person qualified to make an adhesive which would approximate the qualities of my webbing. The Trapster.
Right.
So they know that the Trapster is actually behind the death of Joey Z. It's funny because I did not remember this when I did the. Well, actually, no, I remembered, but we never found out who Joey Z really was. Because
maybe he's Facade.
Yeah, maybe he's Facade. They made a big deal as to who is Joey Z, and we never find out who Joey Z really is.
Look at all these Spider-Man mysteries from 20 plus years ago. Yeah.
All right. Oh, abnormal. Oh, Peter and Mary Jane are out. And Peter turns into Dusk.
Yeah.
And we get a little brief history of the Trapster, and back in his Paste Pot Pete days, the Dusk. Of course, now
here's Paste Pot Pete right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
From the old Fantastic Frightful Four, wasn't he?
Was Sandman? Yeah.
Sandman, the Wizard, and Electro, I think, was a member of the Frightful Four.
No, I don't think Electro was.
Well, he was in Spectacular Spider-Man when they all showed up, but he wasn't an original member, I don't think.
Yep. Who's the
maybe
guy?
It was the Ox. Was it the Ox?
Who's the guy that threw things and they landed on your chest? Who was that guy? He's a Fantastic Four guy. I can't think of it. But anyway,
so the shocker then comes after Paste Pot Pete as well. Let's see, why is the shocker after him? Oh, there's an open contract on you now that so there's an open contract on the Trapster now that Spider-Man is off the table since Spider-Man has disappeared. So the shocker's in here. And
the Wizard. That's Ryan. Very good. I couldn't think of the Wizard for nothing. Yep. The Frightful Four, says Hornet, were the Wizard, Electro, Trapster, and the fourth spot was a revolving door with multiple people, including Electro and the Denny O'Neil run. Okay. Yeah.
Well, anyway, so apparently what's happened is Osborn, having used the Trapster, is now putting people on the Trapster's case, because since Osborn used him to kill Joey Z, Osborn is trying to eliminate that loose end. So the shocker is now after Paste Pot Pete, and Dusk saves the Trapster Pete from the shocker. Yeah. And so so Trapster asks Dusk, what do you really want? And Dusk says, I'm someone who was raked over by Norman Osborn, just like you, and I want to get even. And Trapster says, that sounds like a good idea. But of course, Dusk, Spidey, Peter, what am I doing? What am I doing? Making deals with the devil to get at the biggest devil. So
yeah, what am I doing? To be continued next issue.
Oh, to be continued.
All right. So, adjectiveless Spider-Man from 1990, as launched by Todd McFarlane. We've got this one.
Yeah, we're a long way from the Todd McFarlane days.
I know. Well, eight years. Yep. All right. So take me through this one.
Anyway, we're back at the Trapster.
Just chilling with the goons there.
Well, he's chilling with goons who have been after him. He recognizes them as some freelance assassins because, after all, like we said before, Norman had put a bounty out on the Trapster to eliminate him. So here are some guys who've come to collect, but the Trapster glues them to the floor, and then Dusk comes to take care of him.
Yeah, look at him. Boom, 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 boom.
So the Trapster
stuck in the middle with you.
Yeah, they're really digging in the well for these titles, I swear. So anyway, after finishing off these goons and feeling a little bit slimy by hanging out with the Trapster, Spider-Man / Peter / Dusk decides to go home. And this is actually something I remember this panel just because I just thought it was amusing. And I wonder what I like the way Mary Jane is drawn by Romita. But anyway, Anna Watson, since the death of Aunt May, because Aunt May really died and really was supposed to be dead and not the genetically engineered actress, so they're sitting there talking, and because Anna was originally going to take care of the baby, help them take care of the baby, but now she says, sometimes I feel like a fifth wheel. It's not as if you and Peter are children. And Mary Jane says, well, you're half right. Because Dusk is Peter's back there going.
It's a good looking.
I know that. I just really like. I just
check out that wedding ring too.
Yeah, I know it. It's
that wedding ring.
I was about to say that looks a little bit more than Peter can usually afford. She must have bought it herself.
Look at these. I forgot these panels. These are cute.
Yeah, he's motioning her upstairs.
Oh, Peter! Good God!
Yeah. I don't. Yeah. We don't mind. We don't mind seeing Mary Jane's body, but Peter's body.
Look at her check him out. That's so funny.
Well, I mean, he's all these years being Spider-Man has probably made him
in pretty good shape. Yeah,
it has probably made. He probably is in a lot better shape than I am at the moment. That's for darn sure.
Look at those two. Look at that married couple enjoying being married. Look at that.
Yeah. Now Mary Jane's going through all their problems. They've run through all their savings between the cost of grad school for him, undergrad for her. We're supposed to be helping out Aunt Anna with the mortgage on the house. They're just pretty well flat broke. But Peter's got some trouble. Peter's got some problems. He's got to take care of. And of course, part of it is now that he's going back to grad school, one of the idiots that he has to deal with is Paul Stacy.
There he is. Look at that goatee.
Yeah.
Is he a teacher? Is it Paul?
Yeah,
Stacy
he's a grad assistant. So he's
Brent said we need more nudity and wedgies in comics now.
Yeah. Yeah, that Delilah pick is really
grabbing her by the thong and throwing her head into the wall. God.
You wonder if that was like DeFalco's instructions. Oh, by the way,
grab her by the thong.
She's wearing a thong, or if the artist just decided I'm going to have a little fun with it.
The reaction shot, the cutaway shot of
because nobody likes to. I mean, as Paul Jenkins says, artists do not like to draw ordinary women.
They don't.
Because he wanted to make because originally I think it was Jenkins who said his idea for the Queen when he created the Queen, that the Queen was not a sexy voluptuous woman, because after all she'd been around since Captain America. Yeah. She was an old experiment of the super soldier serum. But the artist did not want to draw a middle-aged one.
I guess not. Hornet says, welcome to Cheesecake History with JR.
Yeah. Well, comics is a visual medium, as they say.
It is.
So anyway, we find out that Paul Stacy is just a huge dick, and why Peter didn't clean his clock And see, here's the thing. I thought actually Paul Stacy was one of my suspects for Green Goblin 5.
That guy. He looks like a jerk. Yep.
Yeah, he was one
That
of
would
my
make sense, wouldn't it? A Stacy as a goblin.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
Because later when Norman visits, trying to think of who they visited in the hospital, but Paul was there, and Norman walked in, and Paul is completely deferential to Osborn.
Yeah.
He's not he's not smug and arrogant like he is with everybody else. He's totally deferential to Osborn. So to me that was he's using Paul as his goblin stooge for various reasons. Frankly, I like that one better than
I like that too than what we had, which was a degenerating clone.
Yeah.
Brent says, I forgot Tarantula also thrashed Delilah around in a thong in a different issue drawn by Steve
Scrooge. That's the artist. Okay.
Scrooge. That one I did not care for. Yeah. Has Paul Stacy joined the Friends of Humanity? No, that's during the Byrne and Mackey run.
No, it was during this. It was during. Yeah, I mean, not the
reboot.
No, it wasn't after the reboot because.
Oh, okay, my bad.
Yeah, no, I mean it's easy to get it confused because Paul and Jill were brought back because actually mostly Jill. I don't remember seeing Paul at all actually after the reboot. Jill came back because Byrne and Mackey were trying to set her up as
Mary Jane's replacement.
Exactly. Yeah, because she kept showing up in inconvenient places she didn't belong, and then the infamous where she falls off the ladder and Peter catches her. So they were definitely setting her up as Mary Jane's replacement.
Hey, let's not forget who the hero of this issue is. There you go. There he is.
Our hero, Norman Osborn. All righty. That's right, because Stacy is giving him a hard time, and one of the professors is again, Peter has a hard time keeping up with his schoolwork, but Norman is here to speak in Peter's defense.
Yeah.
And so of course the professor is thanking him for the sizable donation made to the new science building. And Norman says, I would do anything to see the further enlightenment of fine young men such as Peter. Mark, Peter and I go way back. My son and Harry, he and Harry were the best of friends.
Look at this. Look at what Peter's dreaming of.
Yeah.
Just murdering him.
Yep. Beating the crap out of him.
Yeah.
Now, see, here's funny. I mean, sometimes, Peter he just sitting there, he just can't take it. He just can't believe that Norman can present two entirely different faces to people, that he can be one way with, he can come off as so charming and everything. And yet Peter knows exactly. And see, this is the Norman Osborn I like, and this is one reason why I absolutely hated the ultimate version of Norman Osborn, because he turns into a literal monster.
He turns into the Hulk. Yeah.
Yeah. He turns into the Hulk, but Norman Osborn is the monster. I mean, Norman, he doesn't need to turn into a monster. He is the monster.
He is the monster.
He's the monster that walks around among us. And only Peter, and this is why I hated it when Norman got outed and everything, because it's just this idea of this guy who's just walking around and only Peter can see him for what he is.
Exactly.
And he can't do anything about it. So
that was cool.
But and this is, I look at Peter and I'm reminded of all that Harry could have been. So he's saying, he's still basically he's I wouldn't say he's threatening, but he's telling the professor, no, don't kick him out of school. Don't. I've donated a lot of money. He's staying. So because it's like it's one of these things. It's this passive aggressive. He just does these little things. Yeah. On the ostensibly helping Peter, but Peter knows he's
makes
not
a good
helping
villain
him at all. Yeah, he's not helping him at all. So there's all these other things going on. So anyway,
Paul Stacy, Arthur Stacy.
Arthur, and there's Jill, by the way.
Yeah, here comes Jill.
There's
right
Jill,
there.
And because essentially he's wiring the dusk for light and sound so that the dusk can entrap the Trapster and Osborne. And well, of course, Jill doesn't like. I mean, Arthur doesn't like Jill barging in on him. Originally, Jill was going to be a cop, and I'm not sure why.
Was that in Life of Riley or whatever? How'd you know that?
I don't know if it was in Life of Riley, but it was somewhere. She originally was, because I think she was supposed to be maybe it was Life of Riley. She was supposed to be introduced instead of Arthur, and she was a cop or something, or with Arthur, and she's a cop as well. I'm not sure why. That would have been an interesting subplot. I would have. There's
a couple things, and we talk bad about the Clone Saga, but there's two things that I like. I kind of like Arthur and Jill as characters.
Yeah, well, they were post-Clone Saga, though. Arthur appeared.
That's true.
Yeah, really, Arthur appeared in Peter Parker 75. I think that's when he first appeared.
Really,
they're post-Clone Saga.
I like them as characters, and I thought that was a good idea. I also thought Jessica Carradine, the burglar's daughter, had potential, and they never did anything with her.
Well, they couldn't because she was a Ben Reilly character. I mean, it was kind of the same with everyone at the grind. And what was her other name? Jessica Winthrop or
something like that. But
essentially, though, they did have one issue where Peter and Mary Jane went back to the daily grind, just to see, and this other woman. I think her name was Desiree Winthrop or whatever. The thing is, she was going to be a mutant, I believe.
Jessica Carradine?
No, not Jessica. The other. No. Remember when they set up when the Clone Saga was set up? Ben was set up, and I remember doing this. It was potential girlfriend number 1 and potential girlfriend number 2. Yeah. And Jessica Carradine was kind of the. I don't know. She wasn't quite punkish or goth, but she was a cool looking, edgy, reporter or photographer or whatever. And then Desiree Winthrop was kind of a Mary Jane clone. She was like the beauty queen that would walk in and take command of a situation or whatever and stuff like that. So, but there was a hint that she was probably a mutant because I think there was something, I don't know if it was the Sentinels or whatever, that sent out something and it impacted all mutants. And at that time, she happened to get a headache.
I got you.
And at the very end, when they brought her back just to meet with Peter and Mary Jane, they hinted that she had powers or something like that. But anyway, there was a whole bunch of characters that were created for Ben, and they got like Jarek, Jessica. Since by that time, I think by the time even Sensational started, Peter was coming back, so Jessica was written out. So,
all right. So we got the jerk here.
But before that, Jill says that she's worried about Paul because he's not taking his medication. So it's. So there's some hints, and again, this is all why I thought, because all these plots were hopefully going to lead somewhere, but ultimately they all got shit canned.
Yeah.
So anyway, so the Dusk and the Trapster are going to they're bearing down on Osborne. The Trapster confronts Osborne and is going to crush him with his what the hell is that? His paste.
Paste, yes.
His paste. So, and so he's going to crush him with his paste, but
there he is.
Dusk comes to the rescue. Of course, Norman didn't really need any rescues. He bust out.
I love Norman calling him, what is it, paste pot? He doesn't call him Trapster anymore. That's pretty good.
So, I like the way Norman is dressed. I always liked it when he was in his green suit. Yeah. His green suit, his black shirt, and his purple tie. Just
badass.
I mean, I always liked it because in a way, obviously, it's just done because of comic book colors. Anybody looking like that in real life would have been. He would, the first thing he would have said, "Well, wait a minute, the Masters is that away." It just kind of shows how Norman, in a way, was so proud of his other identity. He just telegraphed it. It was just kind of like he just telegraphing who and what he was, daring people to figure it out. But so quote unquote, Dusk comes to the rescue.
Look at the use of black with Ramita, what he's doing. That's cool looking.
Yeah,
that's neat.
And so, unfortunately, the recording that Dusk was trying to make with where Norman was confirming that the Trapster was working for him, that wound up being crushed, and basically, Paste Pot Pete tells Dust that you've signed my death warrant because Norman is just going to find me and have me killed. And Dust says, I have a way out of this, though. And so basically, Paste Pot goes and admits on TV that he was the one who killed Joey Z, and Spider-Man had nothing to do with it. So.
Here you go. Here's some panels of it. I killed Joey Z, but he didn't really, did he?
Yeah, he did. He did kill Joey Z.
Oh, he did. So he's the killer.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, he is the killer of Joey Z. But the mystery is we just don't know who Joey Z was.
Oh, that's
because everybody talked about what a badass he was. And the thing, why are you, you don't want to know about Joey Z, and he was known by Sebastian Shaw, Kevin Bacon, at Hellfire Club, and it was just, but yeah, everybody was saying why you don't want to know about Joey Z. He was a real badass or whatever, but you never really find out who Joey Z was. But anyway, the Trapster killed him using a synthetic polymer that, Spider-Man said, here's my webbing, compare it. And so, the Trapster, confesses to killing Joey Z, and that is the end of the story. And that is the end of Dusk.
Brent says, so we know who killed him, but we don't know who he was.
Right.
6 degrees of Sebastian Shaw. That's pretty good. The Watcher knew who Joey Z was, says Ryan. There you go.
I'm sure he did.
And we have now entered the last 2 issues of Identity Crisis, an hour and a half into. We've done 6 issues.
See, boys and girls, this is why I saved it for the end, because I knew it was going to take the long
8 issues. Yeah.
And, oh my.
Oh, your biggest fan, JR, Sarah says that Cain knows who Joey Z was.
I'm sure Cain knows.
All right. We got a good looking John Romita senior cover. We just looked at his son doing Peter Parker.
How old is John Romita Sr. these days?
He's got to be in his 80s, maybe 90. I don't know.
He's probably got to be in his 90s. In fact, you just
God bless him too.
Let me just Google him here. John Romita Junior. I don't want Junior. I want and Junior's in his 60s as well.
Well, there you go.
It's like, holy cow. John Romita Sr. is
Michael
92 years old.
92.
92.
Wow. God bless him. Man.
And John Romita Jr. is
60.
65.
Wow.
Now, boys and girls.
He's in great shape too, by the way. He can kick our asses.
Yep. Now, boys and girls, next time you make fun of me, remember, John Romita Jr. is 65 years old.
And you're not 65?
Spider-Man. Not yet. I will be 60 before too many years, but for too long, but I am not yet 65.
Yeah.
So, all right. Anyway, the
beautiful looking cover.
The story starts out with the ambassador's daughter from a Middle Eastern country being kidnapped, and then the Prodigy is showing off his super strength and his
Prodigy.
Yeah. Because the Prodigy, actually what has happened is they're trying to kidnap the ambassador and his daughter, and Prodigy shows up to save the day.
With a Spider-Man 90s font on the Prodigy logo.
Yep.
Not to be confused with the internet provider, Prodigy, which was around at this time.
Wow.
You remember Prodigy? Come on.
I remember Prodigy.
There was AOL, Prodigy. CompuServe, yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Where did they all go?
It's funny. I thought America Online would be, it's just funny. I thought they would be the survivor.
No.
I guess they were, but then boom, they're
forget. Warner Brothers bought them. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, because then Joe Quesada started calling DC AOL Comics.
I remember that. Yeah.
Actually, they bought Warner Brothers, I think.
Oh, good Lord.
I think, but anyways, but that was a few mergers ago now.
It was, wasn't it?
Yep. So anyway, so the Prodigy saves the day, saves the ambassador, saves his daughter, and the pictures are being taken by Daily Bugle reporter Billy Walters.
Here's Billy.
Yay.
What in the world, Sarah? You still have an AOL email?
I honestly did not believe that existed.
I well, somewhere I probably have a Hotmail email that's owned by Microsoft now.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I mean, it just,
that's
they've
funny,
just been
Sarah.
replaced. It's like, they're no longer the tech company of the day. It's
They're
Amazon
not.
and Microsoft and
Facebook.
what? No,
Yeah.
Meta.
Well,
Meta, right?
yeah.
Isn't it Meta?
So
God, it's
yeah.
so dumb.
All right. Here
So
goes
anyway,
Prodigy swinging like
yep,
Superman.
yep. And Billy says, now that is what a hero is supposed to be. Wonder if he's looking for a sidekick. Well, of course, Billy got all these great pictures. Jonah is really is pretty happy with it, and so is the co-owner of the Daily Bugle, Norman Osborn.
Our friend and star of the show, Norman Osborn.
That's right, our hero, Norman Osborn.
There he is, right there.
Yep.
Norman.
Now come into my office, Billy. That would just skeeve me out,
No, it wouldn't. You'd run in there with the guy. If Norman said, "Hey, JR, come in my office. Let me tell you who the fifth goblin was, why I like blondes, how the glider works," you would run your happy ass into that office and find out everything.
No, because I know exactly what he.
You'd say, "Well, if I gotta go out, Norman taking me out would do it." I know you.
Because it brings to mind. Because Michael Bailey answered this question.
Yeah.
Because someone, back when you used to take questions and answers on the in the early days of the podcast.
Well, now I just pop them on the screen. Yeah.
Now, before people, but when you would go through the message board, and I think somebody asked, like, Michael Bailey, what would you like to work for Lex Luthor or whatever? And Bailey said, guys like Luthor and Osborn, they're psychopaths, and right. You're only good to them as long as they can, have a use for you. And then when you're done, they get rid of you. So absolutely not. You would not want, these are not people you would want to work with. These are not people you would want to be around.
Sarah is with me. She says that you would be the Goblin Apprentice. You would be the sixth goblin. You would get on a glider and we would see you roll around with Norman. I can see. You would go to a life of crime. I know you.
Boy, that would be fun as hell to ride on that damn thing. I swear. Throwing pumpkin bombs at people.
Hi, crawl space. Just blow the broadcast up. I could see you doing it now.
So anyway, Norman is saying, that ambassador is an old friend of mine, and so Billy, if you this Prodigy guy, maybe you can find him and I can thank him personally, and with a little luck, find a way to use him against Spider-Man. So
Hornet Sex says, I still remember the message board question, what Marvel character would be the worst to live next to? And George immediately said the radioactive man.
And someone said the Blob.
The Blob and the radioactive man. That was a good, I forgot that was good. Hey, look at Betty and Ned just messing around here.
Flash. This is Flash.
Oh, that's Flash. God, he looks like Ned. Maybe that's her type.
That is so weird, because 2 months ago, of course,
you told me that Flash was working for the Bugle, and I forgot.
2 months ago, of course, Flash was enamored, and Betty were seeing each other. And when she decided to join the cult of love, or the students,
look at him,
yeah, and they
call HR. They're making out. And
so
they
were an item for they got to be an item for a while. This was less crazy Betty. So.
Don't mess with her, Flash. She'll pull out the commando stuff.
Yeah, I was about to say, become Commando Betty on your ass,
blow up your apartment too. She's already blown up his apartment once.
Let's see here.
Oh my gosh, Mary says the first thing JR would do as a goblin would be a pumpkin bomb everyone on his list.
Yeah, I actually went back to find out the sins that I knew Tyson's and Peter Palmer's sins.
Great,
but I had to go.
He's gonna go through the list like Santa Claus.
I had to go remind myself why Matt Murdock and Adam Winchell were on the list, and I found out. But anyway, so we're after after Flash and Betty, canoodle a little bit. We're introduced to one of the new villains that was introduced during this time, Conundrum.
Oh, is this the Rubik's Cube face person?
This is the Rubik's Cube face guy.
Okay.
All right. So Apparently,
R.I.P. Tyson. I bet Norman has a list too. You sociopathic behavior.
Yeah. Now, see, here's the thing: the Prodigy saves the ambassador and his daughter, but
yes, Mike. He doesn't.
apparently Conundrum has the daughter.
JR is still pissed at you, Mike. I'm sorry.
Once you get on the list, you never get off. You're done. I mean, you suggested that I looked like the pixelated face of Who in the Who computer in Amazing Spider-Man 155.
He just said you look like the Rubik's Cube guy too. Look at Put him on twice.
All right. He can't get on the list twice, okay? He can't get on the list twice. He's on the list. He can't get on there twice. So I'm sorry, Mike. Go right ahead. You can throw up all this other stuff, but you're already on the list. And you're not moving up. Tyson is still number one. So.
Oh my gosh. This is what happens when we do these all.
Yeah, that's what I say.
My God, it's almost 11 o'clock.
Once it gets to midnight on the crawl space.
Conundrum is no typeface. That's true. It's JR. JR is facade.
Let's see. Here's another.
There you go.
But anyway, apparently,
like
Conundrum has kidnapped the daughter of the ambassador, who I thought Prodigy saved. Well,
funny.
Anyway. So let's see. Prodigy changes back to Peter. Yeah. Oh, and here we go.
Oh, Aunt Anna.
Yep, because and let's see, here's another thing. This is starting another subplot and this is spectacular, right? So this is J&B.
Yeah, spec.
Yeah. And this kind of falls on the heels of Peter being Spider-Man disappeared an awful lot.
Mm-hmm.
So Anna thought that Peter was cheating on Mary Jane.
Yeah.
And one time,
at band camp.
So like Peter like shows up and he's like late at night and he's whatever, and Anna comes down and starts on him. And Mary Jane's had enough of it, and she says he's always gone because he's Spider-Man. And then, of course, nothing. I mean, then it was like, oh, what a foolish thing, But anyway, so Anna is, Anna basically is wanting
I do not remember this. Aunt Anna is talking about how she cheated on her husband with a married man. Is this what this?
Yeah.
I don't remember this at all.
No, well, yeah, because nothing ever got done with it ultimately.
Oh my gosh! I met a man. We fell in love. We got married much too quickly. It wasn't long before Jacob and I. That was his name, Jacob Hillard. He was a radio writer. In those days, the radio drama was dying. Oh man!
Yeah.
That flush of first love had faded, and there was.
So this was why, in fact,
he was a swinger.
Yeah, people were starting to speculate that it was this guy who was coming back as Jack-o'-lantern, that he figured that this was going to figure into all these mysteries, because you realize, and also as you'll see it in the as we go along in this story, because not only does Jack-o'-lantern appear, but our Conundrum, but Jack-o'-lantern comes back because Norman had hired Jack-o'-lantern to threaten Jonah to sell Norman.
Look at Peter's face when he hears that his aunt is cheating.
I couldn't care less. I don't want to hear about old people's sex lives and old people cheating on each other. I don't want to listen to this. That's just gross. That does look pretty bad. That's like,
well, put it back up. Oh my God.
So anyway, basically Anna is claiming that she was accusing him but it takes such a prominent.
I understand.
And again, I don't know if DeMatteis meant this to go anywhere or not, because I think when people ask him what he was doing with Jack-o'-lantern and Conundrum, he said, I don't remember, or I don't know. I was just making it up as I go. I think people thought he was going somewhere with a lot of this, but he wasn't.
Peter
Apparently
listening to Anna is all of us.
All right.
We're getting loopy.
So anyway, there's this jewel that's on display, And the villain who comes to steal it is the new jack-o'-lantern.
Who was
this
swinging with Aunt Anna.
This is not, well, that was what people were speculating, but as we find out in the Mysterio Manifesto, no.
Never ever heard of this. That's crazy.
Well, this is well, again, like I said, they never did anything with it.
No,
so this is jack-o'-lantern, but this jack-o'-lantern and remember, this is the 1990s, folks, so this is this is not intended to be anything, but his cat is named Maguire.
Like
he hangs around with this cat and talks to this cat, and the cat is named Maguire.
Hold on, let me get a picture of the Maguire cat. There's not to be confused with Tobey Maguire, who has not been Spider-Man yet.
He is not Spider-Man yet.
So yep, there's Maguire the cat. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. So this is a goofy looking picture of Spider-Man. Hold on. Wait a minute. What's up with Mary Jane's face back there? Oh,
I was about to say, Peter, look like he's
there you go. Look at that.
I've got to admit, I've got a nice chest.
Well, does he really say that? I've got a nice chest. He does. He says it right there.
Yeah, he says, my chest looks almost as good as Jeff Goldblum's in the first Jurassic Park.
What? Just go. Will you just go? Is what Mary Jane says.
Anyway, so
I miss Sal Buscema on art on spec.
Anyway, so apparently the Ambassador's daughter has been kidnapped by Conundrum. Prodigy, this is a supposedly an old friend of Norman Osborn's, but of course, anybody who's a friend of Norman Osborn better look over their shoulder.
Sarah wants to know how many jack-o'-lanterns we've had. What's a guess?
Let's see here. There was Mackendale, and then this one supposedly. See, this one, yeah, it's interesting because this one talks about the, well, actually,
with Maguire,
he talks about like an old mentor or something. This winds up being Danny Burkhardt. Okay. Because in Mysterio Manifesto, because Tom DeFalco, I guess, tried to supposedly he tried to piece together, solve or answer some of the mysteries that were left behind, like the identity of Jack-o'-lantern, and whether Mysterio was really dead. Because remember, Kevin Smith had killed Mysterio off.
Yeah.
And this was going to answer whether Mysterio was really dead, or blah blah blah. But it didn't. But Burkhardt, I believe, was the Jack-o'-lantern. But that was a retcon because I think DeMatteis has said he had no idea. He was just making it up as he went. So
what's this character's called? It's not
Conundrum.
Conundrum and Jack-o'-lantern.
Yep.
They kind of fight.
Yeah. Well, they both apparently have a history because they refer to the old man. Yeah, the old man. Like he was a man. Like the old man often said, your romantic streak was going to kill you one day. And he's telling that Conundrum is telling that to Jack-o'-lantern. So, and hiring yourself out like a common mercenary, I'm afraid that would break the old man's heart. The old man's dead, Conundrum. So, but anyway, so apparently, and see here, I was thinking the old man was going to be Mysterio, for example, both of these guys, I wasn't really thinking that Jack-o'-lantern was Burkhardt, but considering that both he and Conundrum were kind of illusion based villains, that the old man they were referring to was Mysterio, and that Mysterio was dead and that he had taught both these guys. Conundrum never shows up again after the reboot.
Yeah.
By the way, he's completely forgotten. But anyways, Maguire senses that something's wrong. Prodigy comes bursting in, and well, of course, since both of these guys are masters of illusion, they turn giant. So, and this looks like it's the end for Prodigy.
Well, this one I have no memory of. No memory. I remember the other stuff we've gone over. I don't remember this villain at all. And I don't remember the Aunt Anna stuff cheating. That's crazy.
Yeah. So people were speculating that the old boyfriend was Jack-o'-lantern. Because, what was it? he had, well, either it was the old boyfriend or because the thing is, Jack-o'-lantern had something from Marla Madison too,
Oh yeah.
because it was, he snuck into her apartment when she was sleeping, and there was a book of poems or whatever they took off her desk, and he had a grudge against Jonah as well.
Yeah.
So that was another reason that I thought maybe this was Burkhart, because when Jonah was the one who set up Burkhart as the second Mysterio.
Yeah.
The old Mysterio had died in prison. I was about to say, I'm really getting off track here. Yeah. See, that's it. You go down these, you go down, and it just gets more complicated.
We have reached the last issue.
Part. So,
and here we go. And we have a question about it too. Brent wants to know why. I always wondered why DeMatteis left Spec with this issue in the middle of a 2-part story. Because if you go here, you got Glenn Greenberg, the incoming writer, writes it. And special thanks to J.M. DeMatteis right here. I wonder why it says Stern on the front. Is that Roger Stern? Did Roger Stern help with it? You got Stern there. Maybe it's just a misprint. Right there, it says Stern. Stern, Greenberg, Ross, and Milgram.
Oh, I'll be darned, because my copy does not say Stern.
Oh, what does yours say? I'm on Marvel Unlimited.
Yeah, it just says Greenberg, Ross, and Milgram.
What in the world? What's Stern doing on there? Maybe on the Marvel Unlimited.
Maybe there was something he had to do with it, or something he inspired, and they had to go back and retroactively give him credit when they put it in a new,
Oh, Ryan says because Stern did the goblins at the gate right after, is what he says. I don't know. All right. Let's get through this last one.
All right. Well, it turns out that, of course, Osborn is trying to console the ambassador, his old friend, because his daughter has been kidnapped by a conundrum.
I love that you just skipped over all that fight. You went straight to Norman. Like, screw the Prodigy and the Jack-o'-lantern, whoever that guy is. Let's go straight to what's Norman doing?
Yeah, what's Norman doing? Well, I mean, it's just a fight. I mean, it's like an old Mysterio fight,
It is, yeah, it is.
And Flash is asking Osborn, do you really think Prodigy can pull this off and save the ambassador's daughter? And and Norman says, he'll do his very best. After all, have faith, my boy. There's always room for another hero in the world. Of course, he thinks that Prodigy is naive and he can take advantage of him.
Does he know Prodigy's Peter?
No.
Okay.
He doesn't. Other than a Hornet, he does, and I don't know that he ever learns either. Okay. Because we go into Goblins in the Gate after this, and then we go into the final chapter and Gathering of Five, which again just throws everything into the shitter. So. But anyway, Prodigy eventually uses his spider sense to work through Conundrum and Jack-o'-lantern's illusions. So,
okay,
boom, 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 boom. Okay,
are you at the part where he takes him to the police?
Yes, yes.
You're at here. Okay.
Yeah. So he takes Conundrum.
Takes Conundrum in. Billy walks up to the Prodigy.
Billy's interviewing Prodigy.
Yeah.
Prodigy finds the ambassador's daughter. Oh, and then she's about to give him a kiss. Where were you when I was single? How come I never got this reception when I was Spider-Man? But Jack-o'-lantern comes back.
What happened to his mask? Why'd the mask go off?
That's a good question.
Wait a minute. Is the mask damaged, or does he have?
I don't know because
there it is. The nose is exposed. Okay.
Yeah.
So she kisses his nose. Okay, I get it.
Well, and then Jack-o'-lantern shows up, but Jack-o'-lantern gets blasted by Osborn's goons. And one of my reporters, Billy Wallers, phoned into the Bugle that Conundrum had been captured and that you had come here to rescue Tabriz. I was alerted immediately since they've been friends of mine for years. So Osborn considers Prodigy a hero, has a press conference to acknowledge Prodigy, but Prodigy has something up his sleeve. Before I leave, I'd like to inform you, ladies and gentlemen, I found an item of great interest, a Spider-Man costume, and I found additional evidence to suggest it was either Conundrum or Jack-O-Lantern who recently beat up Mr. Osborn disguised as Spider-Man in order to frame him. Okay, so that happened. Uh-oh. And that, because that happened.
Look at that face.
Yeah. That coupled with the Trapster's recent confession, he framed Spider-Man for the murder of Joey Z, would seem to completely exonerate the web slinger. I'll be turning all this evidence over to the police right after this press conference. Well, and Norman is just not happy.
Flash is.
Yeah, Spidey's been cleared. Isn't that great, Mr. Osborn? He wasn't the guy who beat you up after all. I knew it all along. Maybe you and he can finally become buddies, eh?
Oh, jeez.
Eugene, I'll be taking the rest of the day off.
Well, so Prodigy flies off into the sunset.
Prodigy flies off and he goes home, and Peter decides that, well, even though I had a lot of fun being Prodigy, now that Spider-Man has been cleared of all charges, I want to go back to being Spider-Man.
And
because
2 months worth of Spider-Man.
It was a spider that bit me, and so I might as well be Spider-Man. But it's very handy having that Prodigy costume. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm going to hold on to it for a while.
Yep. So he puts it in the closet.
Yep.
Puts it in the closet.
And then
puts on the red suit.
Yep.
Excuse me. God bless.
And then the last page actually is Norman and Jack-O-Lantern.
Let me see here. Let me get to it. Here we go. Oh, Norman's smoking a cig. When's he do that?
Oh,
He's done that since the 60s.
Norman has always smoked.
Yep.
He was I didn't think he smoked cigarettes, but he smoked cigars because he was when he came back after during the Clone Saga or whatever, he was had a big stogie, and
he can get a light right off of Jack-O-Lantern's head right there.
That's right.
Yep. Yeah, look at him smoking there.
So it turns out that of course, obviously, this everything behind here was a plot by Norman Osborn, except Conundrum's kidnapping of the ambassador's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
But because Norman had the jewel stolen, so that the ambassador would come to him for help. The idea was to recover the stone, and anyway, and then then he figured out, if he used Prodigy to save the girl, the ambassador would be in Norman's complete debt. So, but this was all, but the whole idea of killing Jack-O-Lantern or capturing him was an illusion as well, because now Jack-O-Lantern can operate more freely. Here you go, Jack. Payment is in full. I'd say generous, considered you once told me to go to hell. Hey, I figured a guy like you would consider that a compliment. I guess I do. Ha 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 ha. And the next issue, The Return of the Hobgoblin, which was the Goblin at the Gate storyline.
Yep.
And there we go.
Well, Gary has a question about the next issue. Do you think Goblins at the Gate was a wasted potential story?
It itself wasn't, but the fact that it never led into anything was another. I mean, it was a decent story. It explained how Kingsley and Osborn could coexist in the universe, because it was kind of like, well, what's the point of the Hobgoblin if the Green Goblin is back? But and then of course, obviously, Green Goblin 5 was part of that story as well, and working for Norman. And of course, Kingsley knew that was a fraud. The guy was a fraud. The story itself wasn't a waste. It's just that it was part of something that just was part of a much larger tapestry, larger plot and storyline that we're building. And it was all
they really haven't 30 years later
shit canned it all.
Explain how you can have a Hobgoblin in a universe where Norman's here. And they've tried to make him a costume designer like he was originally when he was introduced in Spec. You had what's his name became the Hobgoblin. Died.
Phil Urich. Yeah, he became the Hobgoblin, then the Goblin King.
King.
Finally, Norman as Carnage killed him. So.
Alas. Which
But anyway, but no, I mean, the thing is, the larger question. There was a lot of a waste here. There were a lot of potentially good ideas, good stories, a lot of subplots moving, a lot of balls in the air and plates in the air, I should say. Balls kind of.
So the question was Identity Crisis a good story?
It was a fun story.
Yeah,
it was fun. It was one of those. It was silly. You know, and ultimately the fact again, it looks like it was a setup for, you know, because these characters keep coming back in one way or another. The costumes at least keep coming back.
Even in the most recent Ben Reilly storyline, we brought the Slingers back. Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, part of it is just, you know, Marvel, why does everything have to be a setup for something? What, you know, it's like, it's almost like, why don't you focus on the characters you got and make people want to read them instead of keep coming up with all these other dumbass variants? You know, if they had just left the multiple costumes as just kind of a fun, silly idea instead of trying to springboard it to launch new series. But no, it was a fun story. It's fun, you know.
Brent wants to know which covers you have for the first months of the double covers.
Well, let's see.
You got them right in front of you.
Yeah. I mean, here's like the Spider-Man and Prodigy.
Okay, here, I'll put it up. There you go.
There's that. And then this was 257 and 258, spectacular. So, but I don't think I got a lot of the variant covers. I mean, it was.
Were there variant covers?
I mean, I think they had like separate covers of. Let's see, I don't remember. Well, actually, no. I was like, I guess they had one cover, and then they had like a which was the gatefold.
Oh, okay.
And then like you see, you have here like Prodigy #1.
Oh, so, I see. Okay. Yeah.
And then, you know, and then the second part of the Prodigy story is just the gatefold cover. But like, let's see here, part 1 of Dusk. Yeah, part 1 of Dusk. Dusk actually is the first cover, and then just Peter Parker Spider-Man is within. So, let's see here, and then of course this is just the gatefold. Okay, Spider-Man Ricochet, that's just the gatefold. But this one has Spider-Man as the gatefold and Ricochet #1 as the other one. And then the same.
If this was Marvel,
same thing with the Hornet, and then like Amazing Spider-Man with Hornet #1 as the.
Yeah, if this was today, Marvel would put out both of them. Make them all variants. Is what they would do.
Oh yeah.
Mary has a question for both of us. What was your favorite costume in the story? My answer is Dusk. I think it's
Dusk.
Mainly due to John Romita Jr.'s art, because it looked cool. There wasn't much to Dusk. It was just like a black suit without any white on it for the black.
But I think that as far as, you know, if there was an idea, although Peter said he liked being Prodigy, but if there was an identity that suited Spider-Man's abilities, I think Dusk was the best one, because, you know, just with Peter's, you know, using the costume to blend in or disappear. I mean, with Peter's ability to crawl on walls and, you know, just, and his flexibility and, you know, just Spider-Man's flexibility, Spider-Man's mobility and ability to sneak up on people and detect danger or whatever. I think a character like Dusk could have made the best use of his abilities. Although, but Prodigy and being able to fly and stuff like that probably would be irresistible to him.
Brent also liked Prodigy. Dusk was too plain all black, but did look cool. I think if anybody besides Romita Jr. drew it, like this era of Luke Ross, I don't like. I like Luke Ross's stuff when he did Captain America. I really was disappointed when Sal Buscema was replaced with Luke Ross back in the day. Because anyway, Sarah says Dusk is her favorite too.
Yeah, Dusk probably. I tell you though, Dusk probably would have been a difficult character to do on a long-term basis, just because by being all black, you have to have highlights or whatever to make the character show up or not look flat. I mean, it's like, remember when the Venom first appeared, or when Peter would first wear the black costume, like whenever in order that it just didn't look flat, like his feet, the bottom of his feet were blue or purple, or there was, all kinds of things to do so that the character actually kind of showed up. So Dusk may have artistically been a difficult character to do on a long term.
Gary wants to know if we've done Goblins at the Gate for Spider History. Have we done that one?
I don't believe so. I would have to check my list. I do maintain a list. I don't know where it is right now because my work area is in total disarray. We brought Spencer's stuff back from college, and so it's all down here in the basement. So I can't find anything now. So
Sarah says, "Which character would you like to see long term and why?" I'm kind of good with none of them, actually.
No, they were a gimmick. They were a gimmick. And just the idea that Marvel keeps trying to squeeze every, out of, instead of just, they were just gimmicks.
Brent says we need to do Goblins at the Gate and guess who Green Goblin 5 is. Oh, we've done that, haven't we? I swear we have.
Well, I don't know. I'd have to look, but Green Goblin 5 was Phil Urich.
We've tackled that.
Yeah. Green Goblin 5 was Phil Urich. He was always meant to be Phil Urich. But Greenberg was told not to make him Phil, or not to reveal him as Phil. And then, of course, Byrne decided to make him the disintegrating goblin, disintegrating clone. So,
hey, how about for the next 10 minutes, we take questions. If you got some questions for me or JR, we will do it before we wrap up the show. We've been on the line for, my God, 4+ hours.
Because you demanded it, folks.
You demanded it.
And I was able to write down the suggestions that I got, which were Art Attack and the Mad Dog Ward.
Mad Dog Ward.
So, but since this is August, first of all,
September.
September is going to be Planet of the Symbiotes.
Oh, yeah. Give them a tease. What we got? You got the rest of the year planned out?
Not the rest of the year. September or September and October, both. It depends on how long it takes to do Planet of the Symbiotes, because I think it was 5 issues, but they were all big,
annuals, large,
mega issues. So it just depends on how Planet of the Symbiotes goes. But no, I don't have the rest of the year planned out. But I can.
Looks like you do if you do Symbiotes for 2 months. You got Art Attacks, Mad Dog Ward. That's 4 months. August, September.
Well, they would be two. I don't know if I would do Mad Dog. I want to see when they were published. Okay. Or the actually the date on the issues, because the reason I'm doing all these stories, the thing is they were all published around the same time, June through October. So it was kind of like, I just might as well go ahead and do them. But if like, Mad Dog Ward falls conveniently during February and Art Attacks falls conveniently during some other month, then I'll probably do them, because they didn't last multi-months. They did, but I mean, they didn't, it was.
We got Gary in the Frozen says, what do we think of Zeb Wells and JR's run so far? You'll find out on the review show at the tentative date. So far, we got June 24th is when our next live stream is going to be. You can hear us review ASM 2, 3. I think by that time, 4 is out. Maybe we'll have 3 issues on there. JR and I were texting about that today. Mm-hmm. We're very different. Mm-hmm. JR hates it. I like it a lot.
That's because Brad likes torture porn.
We
won't tell you why I think Brad likes torture porn. But
it did remind me a bit of Kick-Ass. I read Kick-Ass by Miller and Romita Jr. Spider-Man does get his ass kicked a lot.
I was disgusted by it. I was appalled by it, and But anyway, but you'll have to tune into the show to get the full.
June 24th. I haven't put it out yet. Still working on a cast. We're trying to do a news show and a Patreon show, all 3 in one.
Haven't figured out if I'm personally offended by it.
I like it. I'd never liked anything Zeb Wells has written, and I'm amazed that I like it. Sarah does not like it. She goes, absolutely not, but she does like the art. Brent is suggesting that you do One More Day one more time. Probably he wants to see it with the visuals that we do now. When we did One More Day for Spider History, we probably was just audio, if I had to guess.
I mean, One More Day. I tell you, One More Day actually falls outside. the way I do spider history is up to
When the
when
crawl
I
space.
started on the crawl space.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way I figure it, we covered all those
We
stories
covered it when it came out.
which doesn't exclude not ever returning.
We just
But
haven't.
but the
Have
thing
we?
is, like, no, I don't
I
think
I don't
gone
think
that
we've
far.
ever, because the
It's never been
podcast
that far.
started in 2006,
Mhm.
and I think that's your cutoff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my cutoff, and that
Yeah.
was because you got the first show that I was on. We were reviewing Civil War number 3, I
There
believe.
you go. Civil
So
War.
that's how far. So to me, up till the Civil War, because we have done like Sins Past. We did Sins Past, but up to Civil War, we've not. I've considered that kind of the upper threshold.
Yeah.
And I always consider the bottom threshold to be like ASM 100.
Yeah.
Would only because we have done some older stories, but I just figure that the original Stan Lee run has been covered by so often that I deliberately don't. Plus, we like to have more than one story to talk about, and Marvel Team Up didn't appear until like ASM 114.
My request, which we've still not done, is a chunk, an all episode of Spidey Super Stories. I'd like about 5 issues of you just tackling them. That's my request.
That's not a bad idea.
I would love it.
That would be a fun idea. I'd want to find the right stories though.
Well, the one with the goblin dressed up as a woman.
Yeah, well, you guys thought that was totally amusing.
God, that was hysterical.
I thought the one with the Hulk titled "Beyond the Green Door" was.
Well, you got to do
because they were using a porn movie as a title.
You got to do Thanos and the Thanos copter.
The Thanos copter.
I mean, they even made toys off of that one, so we got to do that. Well, they did,
and it showed up on Loki. For example,
it did.
And I was not watching that episode of Loki. Spencer and my wife were. I have hated all these Disney Plus shows. I haven't. I'm trying
even
to.
Hawkeye's been my favorite.
I haven't liked a one of them.
Oh man,
they're boring. They're just all boring.
Yeah.
And Moon Knight, I couldn't make it past the 3rd episode of Moon Knight. Oh Lord,
you got further than I do. I'm stuck on episode 2 and I haven't gotten back.
I mean, Hawkeye was amusing, but
yeah,
it picked up when the Kingpin showed up, and but I will have to say though that Rogers the Musical is hysterical. I would go listen to that thing when I needed a pick me up or whatever, because it's just hysterical.
Ryan has a question.
Hulk say the magic word.
JR, out of the writers of quote just making it up as it goes with mysteries, is it a good writer tactic, or should they quote they know who is under the mask before the reveal?
Well, that depends. I mean, for example, when the Green Goblin was created, Ditko says that he knew who it was, but the people but he says that he sprinkled he didn't mention Osborn by name, but he said he sprinkled him in, and but Stern knew who, but Stern had Kingsley in mind as a hobgoblin the whole time. A lot of times, I mean, a story, but the thing is, you have to be honest. Here's the thing: it depends. I mean, a good writer can take something that he has no idea where it's going, because sometimes characters take over the story. Unlike, say, one of our problems with Dan Slott was he would have a plot and everything would be altered to go into that,
right,
wherever it was. I mean, but if a writer allows character to dictate kind of where the plot goes, it can go in different ways than he or she originally intends. So a lot of it just depends on the writer. But when the writer decides to wrap up his mystery, it has to have an honest resolution. Yeah. For example, because you have to be able to go back and say, "Oh, I get that. I see that. I see that. I see that."
Here's the clues. Yep.
Yeah, but like dishonestly, like I'll give you an example. What I thought was a dishonest was when Slott brought back the Green Goblin, and we weren't sure whether it was the Green Goblin or not. That maybe it was somebody else. Because I first thought maybe it was Gabriel Stacy or whatever. Because the thing is that Green Goblin,
Slott didn't. It was
that Green Goblin did not act like Norman Osborn, for example.
What Slott story are you talking about?
remember when um uh 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 uh, the Norman busted out of a hospital bed, and then the Green Goblin showed up, and he started using these little kids to fly around as little goblins. And then he found out that this was during Superior Spider-Man. This was, and then finally it all came to a head in the last Superior Spider-Man story, with when the goblins were all running crazy and everything.
Is that the Cult of the Goblins stuff?
Yeah, that was part of the cult.
Okay.
I mean, but he was under the sewers. And then when Spider-Man Doc Ock gave Spider-Man back his body, and Spider-Man unmasked him, and he looked like Abraham from The Walking Dead, because he was this Mr. Banks who was helping Liz set up Alchemax, but he didn't act like, none of this time did you really think it was Norman Osborn under the mask, because he didn't act like Norman Osborn. Right. For example, when he quote unquote killed the Hobgoblin, and he said, "Oh, I've triumphed over the Hobgoblin," or whatever, and then it's like Phil Urich who says, "I don't know, I better look under the mask and see, oh, it's not Kingsley, I better not tell the boss." And it's like, now come on, Norman wouldn't be that stupid. Norman's come back from the dead himself. He knows that people could pull that.
Play off of Ryan's question, Brent says that the frustrating thing was that I thought Kavanaugh did with who was Facade was, since the suspect pool was so small. On the other hand, Mackie had no clue who Joyzy was.
Well, Mackie did not have any use for continuity. Mackie wasn't a continuity person. He would. It was almost like, and I think Greenberg basically said as much in Life of Riley, because there was a. I think it was they were going. How do they explain all this stuff about the clones? Like then the clones not really being clones and stuff like that. Mackie had no interest in resolving all that. So I think somebody else wound up writing that Scarlet Spider annual that explained that it really was a clone of Gwen, but that somebody had turned it into Joyce Delaney, and Joyce Delaney wasn't really whatever, Yeah. But basically, he said Mackie had no interest in really following continuity. So. In that case, whether or not Mackie had an idea for that was typical Mackie. It didn't matter or not. As far as Kavanaugh knowing, he might have, but I just it's like, but when you read the story, it's just he's just trying so hard to set up this mystery, and it's like, and then of course, and then he doesn't pay it off.
Right.
And Facade wasn't that interesting a character that you wanted to see again. Like what Brad was reading from the wiki or whatever. It failed to capture reader interest. Well, of course it did. It's stupid.
Yeah. Mr. Comics says he's happy that JR is back to be on the main review show, because I'm no longer having to play the grumpy old man on the podcast, because the young ones, Neil and Kelly and several of them, they liked stuff when I was giving it D's that I did not like. So,
well, it's funny because the Beyond stuff, all these years later, my daughter is actually starting to get into comic books now.
Oh, that's cool. She's a new reader. What?
Yeah, but she likes to read girl power stuff. Like for example, she just got like a couple of she got a Scarlet Witch trade and House of M.
Nice.
She got like something with Gwenpool. She loves a black cat. It's like she's into girl power stuff. I don't know why, but anyway, she's been starting her. Awesome. She got one of Frank Miller's Daredevil stories. I know, but she was telling me what she liked and what she did, and she had bought an issue of Beyond, and she said, "I don't like this."
Who did?
And it was, but I mean, both she and Spencer are determined to like what they want to like, regardless of what the old man says, which makes me think they're not my kids. But it's funny that she looked at it without any kind of prepping from me or me biasing her or whatever, and she says, "Ben Reilly's a dick. I don't like this guy."
Well, you now agree with the father. Yeah.
So,
back to the topic of some are wanting us to do more spider histories. Hornet says some of those spider history episodes were 5 to 10 minutes inside of a regular episode. They want the giant size spider history.
Well, again, we've talked about the history of spider history a lot. Because people would ask, how do you get your ideas, or where do you get the stories from and stuff. But spider history was just a segment. I mean, when like I said, the very first few, I think Brad would bring it up to the panel. Hey, do you guys remember this? Yeah. okay, bye.
Next.
It wasn't. It wasn't. It really
Yeah.
Spider history did not take off until because I didn't know what the hell to do with it. It wasn't just mine. It was part of the segment
Yeah.
of the whole group. And then we did the Hypno Hustler show,
Oh gosh, yeah.
which it started to find its footing then and I remember why, because like it was like Peter putting the web balls in his ears,
Yeah.
and Brad and the group started cracking up, about the web balls.
Yeah. It
And
didn't take much. It doesn't take much now.
well, no, but it was like, how do you do Spider history, without just sitting there, oh, Spidey did this, then Mary Jane did this.
You got to have fun with it. Yep.
And then the Joey Z one went off the rails.
It did.
And after the Joey Z went off, and part of that was George participating.
Yeah.
Because George then, he compared what I was doing. He said, this is like a drunk uncle telling you a story. And that's how I've always described myself now, really, as a drunk uncle telling you a story. That's what Spider history is.
That's what Spider history is.
Then it took its own. Then it finally, after several, it took a life of its own and became a show of its own. But Hornacek, you're right. I mean, it was, Brad would come up with ideas for the show and he'd introduce them here and there. And, the crawl space has been an evolving, and of course now it's a media empire.
Matt Bird has a question that's been asked several times in chat. We haven't hit it up, but what do you think of Joe Quesada leaving Marvel? That is going to be on the news show that we talked about. That's one of the topics. June 24th, we will hit that one up.
Yeah, but all I'm going to say is don't expect much.
Yeah, I mean,
I think he was done. I mean,
I don't even know what his job title was, honestly, at this point.
I think it was, I don't want to go in and spoil, what Brad may have in mind or what other people had, but I think his contract was up. Disney didn't want to buy him out before or something. And non-event. Really, it's a non-event.
Let's see. Mary has a question for JR. Earlier you mentioned that Peter David was a great Star Trek writer. Did you read any of David's Star Trek novels? What was your favorite?
I did not read the novels.
I did, Mary.
I know. I started reading the first ones. Like, for example, Boys and Girls, I have the very first Star Trek, Spock Must Die by James Blish, Spock Messiah, Price of the Phoenix.
You have the ones before Pocket got a hold of them, huh?
The Pocket ones came. The Pocket ones started after Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Yeah.
After Star Trek,
they were numbered like comics.
But after about 30 or so, I gave up because several of them were so bad. And see, and Mary, you're talking about after a while, really the first writers of the Star Trek novels. Now, James Blish wrote Spock Must Die. That was an original novel. He wasn't actually that familiar with Star Trek, but he was a famous science fiction writer. But he often wrote, and he wrote the first novelizations of the Star Trek episodes. But the thing was, he hadn't seen the series, and he wrote the stories based on early drafts of scripts.
Yeah.
But then, like, the first Star Trek novels were written by like a lot of fan writers,
right.
And some of these names won't mean anything to a lot of you, but for those of us who've been Star Trek fans forever, we remember I think Sandra Marshak, and she had a writing partner, and they wrote weird stories with Kirk / Spock overtones. But a lot of the early novels were very bad.
Yeah.
And then Paramount / Pocket decided to upgrade them and get real writers to start writing the stories.
Yep.
But like Peter David, I don't know how many original novels he wrote of the original series, but I do know he wrote like, didn't he do the Imzadi ones with?
Yes, that was my answer, Mary, was Imzadi, told the love story of Counselor Troy and Riker.
Yeah. And I think
he did Imzadi also. He did a Q novel. He did.
I don't know if he did the one where Q. The implication was that Trelane was Q's.
He did
son.
Q Squared, I think it was called.
Yeah, I think it was Q Squared.
And there was Q in Law with Mrs. Troy. That was a good novel. I like that one.
Yep.
Mary says New Frontier with Captain Calhoun. I read some of those, Mary.
Yeah, that was a pretty popular series.
Yeah, that was an original creation just for the novels. So I like those. Awesome,
I tell you, here's one reason I stopped reading a lot of stuff other than, I hate to say this, comic books, is because in my real life, I have to do an awful lot of reading. I do an awful lot of reading, professional reading. And to be honest, when my day is done, I want picture books with word balloons and TV is really about what I can take, to be honest. So,
here's a question that
Peter David was a great Star Trek comic book writer. He wrote one of the best comic books, and I told him that. I mean, when Brad had him on issue 5, the one he wrote with the security guard who got killed saving Kirk's life was a terrific one-part story, because it took the whole red shirt joke and turned it into a great story.
It did, yes.
And so, plus Peter David being a comic book writer as well, could write Star Trek as a comic book. Like the first DC run, the second DC run wasn't that good, even though Peter wrote some stories, and he had a great one with the trial of Captain Kirk. But,
remember RJ Blaze, his girlfriend?
Yeah, I didn't like RJ Blaze.
Raspberry and Jam is what the RJ stands for.
Yeah, I didn't.
My God. But this isn't Star Trek Crawl Space, but we are both big geeks, Mary included, and Ryan. Yep. Let's see. We're going a lot. How long you want to go, JR?
I can go a little bit longer.
All right. Brent says, if we're doing chunks instead of months, my request would be single issues of Jenkins from Peter Parker. Those were good. Have we ever tackled the one where Uncle Ben takes him to a Mets game, or is it Yankees?
No.
That's a great one.
Yeah, it is. That's a good idea. That one actually is one of my all-time favorites.
It reminds you of your dad, I think you said.
Yeah, I know. That's why probably one reason I don't want to do it. I don't want to break down on the. But I remember writing about it. It was one of my stories of the year when I used to write my Spidey Kick Spots article. It was my story of the year for that particular year. Yeah, I remember reading it, and then like the last page when Peter and Ben are walking off hand in hand, and Peter's got a ball cap on, because my dad and I used to go to minor league ball games all the time. I just about broke my heart.
Sweet. Let's see. Have you read any of the Spider-Man novels from the 90s that are worth your time? Yes, I have.
Yeah, I haven't. No.
I would recommend, before it was Ultimate Spider-Man, there's a novel of short stories called Ultimate Spider-Man. Peter David and Stan Lee did an origin in there. There's a great story written by Peter David called 5 Minutes, where, if I remember, because I haven't read it since the 90s, but I think he tells Mary Jane, I'll be back in 5 minutes. And it's just a great story. Peter, Chi-Town on our site, did a review of that, I think, on our site. If you want to know a little crawl space history with the novels, you remember, well, the site was created in 1998, and you remember in the early internet days, there was a guest book. You could sign in and say, hey, I'm on your website. This is my name. So the very first connection I ever had to Marvel with the website was Keith R.A. DiCandido, was the editor of the Marvel prose novels, and he wrote in on the guest book and says, you know what? No one reviews these novels on the internet. Thanks for doing that. So that was cool. I thought that was great.
Yeah, and I got an email from R.A. Keith as well, complaining that I wasn't reviewing the novels.
Another good one is by, what is his name? It was The Gathering of the Sinister Six.
I've heard the Sinister Six ones are very good.
And it introduces The Gentleman.
And they're very hard to find, apparently, too, now. So.
Yeah. They re-released them in the first one's really hard to find. They bundled two of them together. Adam Troy Castro, there it just came to me. He wrote those. Those are really good. The Hulk, What Savage Beast is really good, by Peter David. If you can tell, we're Peter David fan.
Diane Duane wrote one that I
have. The Venom Factor.
The Venom Sanction, or the Venom Factor or something.
Yeah.
And I've not read it, but Diane Duane's a very good writer. I mean, she wrote some great Star Trek novels.
Did that, and I think she did The Lizard Sanction. Is that the name of it?
That was it, The Lizard Sanction and the Venom Factor. There you go.
Yeah. So if you can find those, I would recommend them. Some of them I think are on Amazon, where you can get them on your Kindle. Some of them.
I have the very first one ever published, called Mayhem in Manhattan, that came out during the 70s, and Doc Ock was the villain. It was okay. Marv Wolfman wrote it.
Marv Wolfman. So
it was okay. So.
Mary says, any chance JR could take on Ultimate Spider-Man stories. I'd like to see him critique and bash Hulk Goblin's new origin or Venom.
You
Oh,
know, I mean,
that's
here's
funny.
the thing. Here's the thing, folks. There are so many. I mean, and to be honest, I love your. I really, truly love your enthusiasm, and would like to, and your faith in me that I can actually do some of these things justice. Because they're, like I said, sometimes like I wish I had done Identity Crisis more justice, because there was a lot more in there that I just.
Dude, you gave it 2.5 hours.
I know, but
what
really,
else you want to give the fans?
Yeah,
Come
but
on.
I know, but I just went over a lot. You know, it was just because I hadn't had time to read it.
You're
but
fine.
the thing is, there is just so much. It would almost be a job to do. And honestly, I know I'm not going to live long enough. I could take all your suggestions, and I'll die before I would get to them all, because there's just so many. So I have to limit it to
amazing.
I have
or
to
616.
But if you really want to know how I felt about a lot of those stories, I mean, I think Brad has still archived a lot of my old Spidey Kicks Butt articles.
Yep.
And like the year in review, for example, I go into
if you want to find out JR's thoughts. By the way, check out the new logo. There you go.
Boom.
If you scroll down here, you can see JR's articles under the columns. Right there.
Yeah.
Spidey Kicks Butt. It's also at the top.
I will have to warn
columns.
you though. I will, it's funny.
Year in review. That's what you're talking about right there. Right?
Yeah. Year in review. Yeah. And like, I did do like a special, like Ultimate Spider-Man the first year. Go back.
Is it up here? Ultimate Spider. There you go.
Okay.
There's
So
JR's thoughts.
I did an article specifically on the first year of Ultimate, and then in subsequent years, it was just part of my year in review.
Yeah.
The problem, I tell you though, the problem is on these. I wrote these so long ago. Some of these are 20 years old or more.
Yeah.
And so I guess I'm grateful for Brad for archiving them, for keeping them around and keeping them alive, so that people can still find them.
Oh, there's one more day.
Yeah,
Look at you. They were just asking about that.
Yeah.
There's JR's thoughts on one more day.
But the thing is, some of these articles, because Dark Mark had asked about using one for, as a reference in one of his classes, and I looked at it. I said, Mark, there's a couple of things I said here, a couple of words I used. Yeah. I said I did that 20 years ago. I would not do that again. There was a lot of stuff. I tell you what, not out long after 9/11 happened, I was really angry about 9/11 and some things, and I said a lot of things that I would not say now. And then just being older, I mean, being a man, I'm almost 60 years old now, and I actually started writing those before I was 40. And, just your outlook, on things change. And there was somebody who really loathes my writing, really loathes it. And, I've seen some of the stuff he said, and it's like, oh, that didn't age well, did it? That didn't age well. It's like, well, no, because it was written 20 years ago. It was just my rambling thoughts 20 years ago, and it wasn't meant to be religiously followed. It's just meant to be read for fun by a crazy But anyway, but they are there if you do want to know what my thoughts on Ultimate at the time were. So
about the novels, Down These Mean Streets, says Sarah's good. I've not read. I have that one. I've not read it.
That's I think a Doc Ock introducing a designer drug story, I think.
Yeah. Venom's Wrath. That one I did read. DeCandido wrote that one, I think. I kind of remember that one. Man, it's been 20 plus years ago, though. Let's see. Did anyone read the Super Thriller Junior novels like Choose Your Own Event? No. Nope, I never read those. Nope. I think I was a little too old because those 90s novels came out when I was in college.
Well, and another thing, not with just these Spider-Man ones, but the Star Trek ones you mentioned earlier, so many of them started coming out. You just couldn't keep up with them all, and it's like comic book collecting in a way. Once you find, or baseball card collecting, because I used to collect baseball cards. Once you realize you can't catch them all, it's like you lose interest. You can't get them all.
Brent wants to know what's your favorite story of 2007, Back in Black or the One More Day year. Did you do that one? Did you do that?
I never finished that one. It's
you're
funny.
still asking for it. My God.
I know, folks, again, I'm sorry, but it's hard to explain, because
Here, look at this though. Spider-Man 2007, The Road to Hell. Is that what they're talking about?
Yeah, 2007 was the year that was it was going to be the whole year was going to. Usually what I did was in the year in review, I didn't write them all at once. I wrote them in chunks, like, like one month would cover amazing, the next month would cover spectacular or whatever. And then I would consolidate them all into a year in review. 2007 is when I gave up writing. There were a lot of things going on. I'm trying to think. Spencer it's one of those things because really the writing did take a lot of time.
And and that's when you joined the podcast. So you didn't have to write, you had to talk.
That was thing.
Yeah.
Part of it was, they took a lot of time. And it was getting to be, Spencer was getting older, and it's kind of hard to explain. I didn't spend a lot of time with my daughter. One, because I traveled more, and my daughter was involved in dancing. And so actually my wife was the one who went out with her and did that. But when Spencer was born and he got to be 5 and 6 years old, because my daughter was out doing stuff with her mom, I was taking care of Spencer a lot. So Spencer and I were spending a lot. And to be honest, some of the best years of my life when Spencer was little, and I just said, I would rather do this.
No doubt.
I mean, it's fun writing about Spider-Man, but it did take a long time. And also my responsibilities at work increased, just a lot of things, I'm trying to think. 2006, how old was I? So I was like in my early 40s.
So you were me. Well, I'm not I'm in my mid 40s,
but with much more hair.
No shot.
So really life just got in the way. Life just took over.
Yeah.
Like not long when I was trying to write 2007, I think I was writing it really in 2008, 2009. Spencer's first year of baseball, I was his coach. Which can you imagine how awful it was for that poor kid? So
you'd use your goblin voice.
No, I did not.
Get on base, you little bag.
I did not use
Get on base.
That I got dragged into that because it's basically the league said, we don't have a coach for this team, and if you don't coach it, we're going to break it up and send all the kids somewhere to other teams. And so I said,
it's your Peter Parker responsibility.
I'll do it. But I never coached again. I mean, but things like that were happening. So, and I gave the writing up. Also, 2 more reasons I gave the writing up. One, Brad was right. Once I was invited to the crawl space and then never left. That was kind of the release. That was kind of the, so like we're talking about all the current stories. So it's like, why would I write like years in review or whatever when I've already talked about it? And 2, One More Day happened, and Brand New Day was so awful. And it was the reason I sat out the whole Beyond thing. Why write or talk about something when you're going to say, I hated it every time. So
yeah. Gary in the Frozen said, JR and Brad, you two are the best. Thank you for all you do. I learned so much from you guys. I'm always so entertained. There you go. We tried. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We tried.
Ryan says, great show.
I mean, we love Spider-Man. I mean, we genuinely love Spider-Man.
We do.
And it's funny, even in our old age. I mean, Spider-Man. And what I love is that Spider-Man appeals. See, this is the thing, Marvel. Marvel. They think that they have to do something to Spider-Man, make him young or make him unmarried. We have to do something weird to make him. No, Spider-Man has always appealed to people. You don't have to fix him. You don't have to say, oh, he's single or, oh, he's 15 or whatever. People love Spider-Man because he's the ordinary guy who becomes a superhero. You don't have to F with him to make him popular. He just is. So
Brent says he wasn't trying to bug you about the article. He just wondered what your favorite of 2007
I'm sorry.
was.
I'm sorry, but no, you raised a good question. You raised a good because that was when I stopped writing. So why did I stop writing? Blah blah blah. Favorite was probably Back in Black. I mean, unfortunately, it's like they stretched it out too long because, like I said, then you have like one whole page of the sniper just sleeping. But
when Spider-Man grabs by Ron Garney art, grabs the Kingpin by the flesh, the flesh.
J. Michael Straczynski,
right?
his Spider-Man run was very uneven, I thought. But when you compare it, like with a lot of stuff that's come over the years, you give anything to have him back doing Spider-Man. But that story where he faces the Kingpin, I mean, it's just it's just so, you wish they would do it for a movie, because it's like, because it's like like the Roman Colosseum and the gladiators, you know, all the prisoners are sitting there watching, and then the Kingpin comes out and he makes he orates about, you know, I mean, the definition of a chump. The chump who said lets the man in the iron mask tell him to, you know, and so Peter is there, and Peter is like, you know, he has his bottoms on, but he doesn't have his mask or his shirt on.
Right.
You know, it is a great theatrical story. I would love to see it adapted in some form or another. And with Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man, I think he would be with
Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin.
He could definitely do it. So yeah, that probably would be my favorite story in 2007. And it's a genuinely fun, good story. It's just a shame that everything else went into the shitter.
Gary says, hold on. Mary says, thank you, JR and Brad. You guys are the best. I know JR hinted at it, but what were you guys' thoughts on Doctor Strange 2? I liked it. I give it an A-.
I didn't go see it. I saw enough of it on the web, and once I saw that how the Illuminati went out like bitches, I said, I am not watching this piece of shit. And I haven't.
Jeez.
It's disgusting. I haven't. It was stupid. Absolutely stupid.
Well, put it in context. Watch the film and then give it a grade.
Don't take my word for it.
It'll be on Disney Plus in July. You can watch it. Come on. Have Spencer over to the house.
No, Spencer's in Michigan with his girl. You know, no. Spencer's living in Michigan right now.
All right. Cuddle up on the couch with the missus.
Oh, God, no. Honestly, God, do you hate me that much?
I do. Anyway, I liked it, Mary. JR is a superhero dad, says Mary.
I wish I was. I tell you, it's the most. It's you know, it's one reason I'm drawn to the Osborn dynamic. Really, you know, because I've been both Harry and Norman. You know, being a father, being a parent is. It is the greatest thing in the world, and I'm saying this sincerely. I'm never reading it out of a Hallmark card. It's the greatest thing in the world, but unfortunately, along with the joy comes a lot of heartache, and some of it you are responsible for, and those are the things, unfortunately, that may bother you the rest of your life. So, you know, it's you're getting yours, Brad, when your little girl
she turns 12. Up. She turns 12 next month. You believe that?
Yeah,
Brent
I
says,
can't.
I take it Thor Love and Thunder isn't in JR's future.
Nope, not at all.
June 22nd, by the way, Mr. Comics says Doctor Strange is on Disney Plus. Give it a shot. See if you like it.
Honestly, God, why would you introduce John Krasinski in that role when everybody's demanding, and then take him out just like that?
Take him out. Yeah, he did.
Why would you do that?
To show how badass Scarlet Witch is. But anyway.
But she's not. I'm sorry. She's not. She can't even support her own title. She can't even support her own title. So don't give her a don't give her a movie.
You drop an F-bomb for the first
time.
But
my daughter loves the Scar. My daughter, my daughter loves Wanda. I've got
Wanda too.
My daughter, and I don't show these pictures for obvious reasons. My daughter dresses up as all these. She's taking pictures of herself.
That's cool, man.
As Wanda, as Spider-Gwen, as
nice.
As Felicia, Poison Ivy, and I asked Spencer, "Hey Spencer, you going to show your friends pictures of your sister as Poison Ivy?" And he wrote back, "Never." No. It's
real,
like, you know,
real quick. They talked about Thor, and I just read it this afternoon. Have you heard the plot of the new Hulk book? Because Hulk is fighting Thor in the current Hulk book. Have you heard the plot of what the Hulk book is? So I've been reading the Hulk. I've read 60 years of the Hulk. I've read every issue of the Hulk. Hulk is my second favorite character. This is the absolute worst run on the Hulk of all time, in my opinion. Wow. Donny Cates is writing it. I liked his Venom. So imagine JR. Bruce Banner creates a bridge that looks like the Enterprise. He has a captain's seat. He is inside the Hulk's brain.
Oh, God.
And he calls down to the engine room for more power from Mr. Scott So he throws things to tick the Hulk off. So he'll throw zombies at the Hulk, and he'll increase more power, Mr. Scott. And you literally see them slide up to more pissed off the Hulk. So Bruce Banner is Captain Kirk. The Enterprise is the Hulk, and he's driving the Hulk like he's the captain of the ship. That is the absolute worst Hulk. And I just read they're doing a crossover. It's actually much better than what I've been reading, but Hulk and Thor fight, and Hulk blows up. Gamma air affects Thor. Now it's Thor Hulk, and Thor Smash was the latest issue I read. So anyway, yes,
somebody like Peter David could probably take that concept and make it work. But
I don't know. Like,
well, but you're right. It takes a very special person to take such an absurd. Yeah.
Mary says yes. Mary is not liking the Hulk book. I agree with you, Mary. Brent asks, "Is this worse than Burns' run?" No, man. Burns' run, I liked the first in the 80s. I didn't mind the Ron Garney burn Hulk that lasted like 6 issues in the 90s. This is by far the absolute worst Hulk I've ever read. Yes, Mary, they dropped the progress made in Immortal Hulk. The new Hulk book sounds like a Eddie Murphy movie, Meet Dave, where Murphy's body is a ship and little aliens live inside him and drive him around. That's so true, Hornet. Meet Dave. I forgot about that film. Oh my God. JR, should we call it? I'm exhausted. We were talking about Eddie Murphy movies.
Yeah, everybody, thank you for putting up with all of this for these.
Oh my God. Yeah. 24th, JR and I'll be back with a cast of characters to review the modern issues. We got some Spider news. We're going to do a Patreon episode that night, I think. You guys are awesome. We've been on the line for a long time.
And Planet of the Symbiotes come September. So
September. All right, everybody. Have a good night. We are done.